to LA if things work out or not, but I really enjoyed just how honest he was, just how much of himself he was. And I had no idea he had a daughter. I had no idea he was a father either.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. My wife said that today, and a lot of people didn't know, and we'll hear that. He was funny on that and good on that. So, again, more of the Blake Bortles interview coming up. And each time, we'll talk more about Blake and about some of the answers that he has, too, because it was pretty revealing about some of the things that went on with the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you haven't seen it yet, if you didn't see it on TV this weekend. And we held some stuff for the radio, too, so that you haven't heard the entire thing, a lot about what's next for him and with the Rams. I want to get back to the NCAA tournament right now, though. And we talked the first couple of days of this tournament. Oh, what a dud, right? I mean, you didn't have the Cinderellas and the upsets and all that stuff and some of the blowouts. There really were blowouts. Heck, Jacksonville was easily the best pod of the first weekend. We had 5 out of the 6 games that were entertaining. 1 blowout with Kentucky. We had a couple right down to the wire. LSU beat Maryland on a last-second shot. So it was clearly the best place to see basketball in the first couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament. Well, wow, that's changed. And this is what you get. When you don't have Cinderella, you get a lot of the teams that can really win it and go deep, and that makes for big games and good games. And we've had it now in the Elite Eight and now these overtime games. And, I mean, heck, we even kind of did it, not really a buzzer beater, but a buzzer tire, in terms of the Virginia game. So all of a sudden now everybody's like, all right, this is March again. We're loving the tournament. My question is this. We around here don't necessarily care too much, unless you have them in your bracket, about the 4 teams remaining. But we love the tournament. And we love the tournament for what it is. We love the tournament for the water cooler talk, to be able to brag a little bit about we got this many games right, or what does our bracket look like, or yours stinks, or whatever it might be. That's why this thing is so big across the country, and because you don't have to be a diehard college basketball fan, but you love doing that. It includes everybody, and that's the beauty of it. But what I thought about this weekend was, is it clearly the best postseason tournament there is in any sport? And the reason I say it is, the 16 teams that were left in this one, give me 1 or 2 teams. I mean, you might be able to give me 1 or 2 that you think, but I don't think you could give me 3 or 4 that you wouldn't say, you know what, they can't win it all.
Yeah.
I think all 16 teams you could say could win it all. It might have been a little bit of a stretch for a couple of them. I mean, listen, Michigan got blasted, but I think most people before that game would say, yeah, Michigan's got a chance to win this entire thing.
Got it out.
That's just what happens. I think Tennessee, chance to win this entire thing. At least I thought so. Texas Tech, you'd be like, well, I don't really know much about them. Mm-hmm. You might not know much about these teams, but now it's crystal clear Texas Tech is good enough to win this whole thing. Auburn's good enough to win this whole thing. I would say Houston was good enough to win this whole thing. So you can get me college football's playoff, and you can find those 4 teams, and usually all 4 have a legit chance to win. You could extend the playoffs to 8, and they might have a good chance to win.
Yeah,
but after 8 teams,
I don't know. See, Brent, there's the point where I feel like if you bring 8 teams into it, you're probably going to have an idea who's going to be in the finals. I mean,
pretty good, yeah.
Depending how things shape out.
That 1 versus 8 is going to be tricky, right?
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Ask the number 1 seeds how 1 versus anything is in this tournament.
Exactly.
Not very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, I mean, I'm talking pro sports too. Listen, the NBA playoffs, they're pretty predictable until the finals, and then the finals, like the Eastern and Western Conference finals, and then the finals. The NFL playoffs are fantastic. Really hard to predict. Very hard. So I would say what you're telling me is, yeah, I think probably the NFL playoffs might be better because of the Super Bowl and how big it is, and we love football. I understand your point, but I would still argue this. In the postseason this year, did you really feel like every playoff team had a chance to win the Super Bowl?
Well, and here's the beauty. In the NFL, you have home field advantage. In the NCAA tournament, there is no home field advantage. So it's anyone's. It's anyone's. I mean, granted, there's teams that play closer to where they go to school and whatnot.
That's Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, that is Purdue. So, there are the advantages there, but it's always on a neutral court.
Yeah, so am I missing something? I mean, NHL playoffs are great.
I love the NHL playoffs because it gets gritty. It gets very physical, especially teams that don't like each other. Now, granted, the physicality, the fights, they have kind of fallen to the wayside in the past couple years. Not to say there's not any fights anymore, but, I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, the Avs Red Wings, man, there'd be a fight every single game. Goalies were going at it. So I think there is something special about the NHL playoffs. But even now, I mean, with the teams that are doing well, it's usually the same teams. Like the Lightning, man. The Lightning the past 3 or 4 years have been the team. Now, granted, they haven't won all the time. I mean, you have the Las Vegas Knights who put on a really cool story last year, going from an expansion team to going to the Stanley Cup Finals. But it's been kind of the same people in the Stanley Cup Finals as well.
Yeah, it has. And I think even, listen, you can get a hot goalie and you can ride. I think maybe it was the Capitals back when I was in school. It was some 20 years ago now. They were like an 8th seed. They beat the 1 seed, which was pretty unusual, of course, in NHL and NBA playoffs. But I'm from the totality of teams this year. Now, this might not be the case every year in the NCAA, but I kind of spelled it out for you what I think about the March Madness tournament in 2019. I don't think the depth was very good in college basketball. I don't think there were a lot of great teams either. So there was this there were very few elite. Like I still don't think Duke was an elite team. They almost lost 3 straight times, right? I'm not sure they were elite. I think they were very good. I thought UNC was on the border of maybe being elite. Well, it turns out they were just very good most of the time. So I think there's this cluster of very good, then not a lot of depth, so really not great after that of the 328 teams or something in college basketball. But somehow we ended up with 16 teams in the Sweet 16 that I think you could say, you know what, they could win. They could win. They could win. That's a pretty cool postseason.
Let me go ahead and ask you this question quick. If you look at the Final Four right now, is it good for the NCAA tournament or bad for the NCAA tournament?
I saw a lot of people saying that because Zion's out. Listen, I think better to be Zion in, no doubt. But at the same time, listen, people, it's the Final Four. People are going to watch now.
Let's hope so. I'm just saying, I guarantee the casual audience doesn't even know where Texas Tech is even at.
They don't. But you want Texas. If your bracket is in play. If you're in a bracket or a pool game or you're going to talk about it at the water cooler, you're interested. Ratings will be absolutely fine. Would they been a tick up because of Zion? Yes, but I don't think as much as people are saying. Hey, more to come, including what about Zion Williamson and why Gonzaga's like Florida State baseball. Next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
Happy Monday. I'm Jake Mitchell. The Final Four is set with the finalists ready to meet this weekend in Minneapolis. Michigan State and Texas Tech will square off first, and then Virginia and Auburn will battle after that. Here's Ty Jerome, Virginia guard.
How many times Coach Bennett's been a 1 seed or a 2 seed and has so much regular season success, and to be the team that gets him to the Final Four, I think that's what means the most because, he's believed in every single one of us. He has our best interest at heart on and off the court, and he's a great person. And to finally quiet the critics feels great.
The Jacksonville Icemen have clinched a spot in the Kelly Cup playoffs. They had to have some help, and they had to win some games. Both things happened, and now the playoffs are coming to Jacksonville. Stay connected with ESPN 690 while you're at work by listening on ESPN690.com.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we can have, and sometimes the most elusive. I'm Mark Anajar from the Law Office of Anajar & Levine. If you've been involved in a car accident, call the law offices of Anajar & Levine at 904-600-4000 for a consultation.
Office in Jacksonville.
When's the last time you checked your credit score? Those 3-digit scores can have a huge impact on your financial life. Credit Karma can help you with free scores, free reports, and free monitoring. Credit Karma also gives you the tips, tools, and advice you need to understand your credit and how to improve it. You can even spot potential errors on your credit report. That can mean better interest rates on loans and credit cards, which can save you thousands of dollars in the long run. Signing up is completely free, no credit card needed. Visit creditkarma.com or download the Credit Karma app now.
Now at the Home Depot, save up to 35% off appliance special buys, like the Samsung stainless steel side-by-side refrigerator, just $9.98. You save $300. It's big enough to hold 25 bags of groceries. Unload those, and if that makes you thirsty, you'll really love the external ice maker and water dispenser. Today is the day for doing. Spring Black Friday savings now at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details. Valid through April 17th.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau. If you've received a letter from the IRS and can't pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank account, garnish your wages, and place liens against everything you own. If this is you, contact J. David Tax Law, a local firm right here in Jacksonville. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation. They explain exactly your options and how they will resolve your tax issue. Only highly experienced tax attorneys will represent you, and fee payment plans are affordable for everyone. Get the protection you deserve. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away. The fastest way to get started is to call 904-507-4777. 904-507-4777. Or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. The number again, 904-507-4777. Or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com.
From the NBA to the NFL, we've got you covered. The worldwide leader in sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690. Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30, Action Sports Jax.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
There was a couple-hour period there where, it was kind of a pity party, feeling bad for myself, and, talking to my parents and brother and agent, and I was like, we'll get out of this, and, this won't be the moment that defines my career or my life, and like I said, it'll be something to look back on and say, it was a stepping stone or, an up and down on the roller coaster that was part of the journey, so it's all part of it.
That's Blake Bortles this weekend with us, talking Action Sports Jax, exclusively sitting down for quite a long time. We're going to play that during the 5 o'clock hour on ESPN 690. But Blake Bortles, when he first found out that it was done, and even though he knew and had an inkling, when you finally get the call, you're like, it's kind of a punch in the gut. And he admitted that to be. And in fact, he said Dave Caldwell had talked to him just a day or so before Foles got signed, just to kind of make it official. And I know those two have a good relationship, so I think he kept them in the loop as much as possible. And Blake, at least publicly, has very little ill will toward the organization because they let him go find another job, all that kind of stuff, which I think is anything a player would ask in that role, is like, hey, just give me enough time to go find another spot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. And that's got to be one of the hardest things to do, and I can't say I ever experienced it, where the writing's on the wall, right? Like, you probably know you're going to be gone at some point during the offseason, but you still have to go to the stadium every single day. You still have to go in the weight room. You still have to go see Milo, maybe get a workout in. You still have to maybe watch film, do all these things that are necessary of you as a quarterback and a football player. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, in the next month or so, I'm probably not going to be here. So that's got to be, honestly, I can't imagine having to do that. I really can't, because listen, there's always some stress and whatnot going into, when you're in training camp, going in the summertime and stuff, it's training camp, and there's a possibility of you getting cut. There's always that stress, but then knowing that the writing is going to be on the wall, but you still have to be a professional and show up every single day to the place where they're probably going to let you go. I cannot imagine that. Yeah,
it's tough. And he did have, by the way, all the way up until, that's where the old, my key card still works, right? Or my code still works on the gate. And he did that all the way through. I know he said goodbye to a lot of people in the building once he knew it was going to be done. Blake Bortles handled a lot of things well. He handled that part well. Gary wants to chime in on the Blake Bortles front. We're going to talk a lot about Bortles throughout the show, and, of course, we'll have our interview in totality coming up a little bit later on. What's up, Gary?
Good afternoon, Brian Alston. Everyone knows, the starting quarterback is the face of the franchise, whether people like it or not. And the way the players are vetted nowadays, they know virtually what a guy eats for breakfast anymore. Did the Jaguars front office guys not do the due diligence, knowing that Blake was a party, or did they just push it aside?
That's a good question. I think, Gary, and I don't think that was part of the resume of Blake Bortles in college. I don't think it was. Listen, I think it was college kid, football player, baseball player, whatever. Parties. I don't think it was, this guy might party more than most people party. Now Johnny Manziel, to a degree, you kind of had that sense, right? Like he was out and about and all over the place. Like he might do things a little bit more. I don't think that's the case. And by the way, I don't necessarily, I've always defended Blake in this part. Even the 18 months he talked about being out and about, it doesn't mean he was sloppy drunk every single time he was out. What happened was people saw him out there. Mm-hmm. But I think the funny thing about all that was we didn't see all these pictures flying all over and videos flying all over of Blake Bortles making a fool of himself in a bar. I think he was there. And so therefore the association of Blake and inside in the beach bars took off. And then the stories escalate. Now I'm not saying he never was a little bit intoxicated or something like that. I'm just saying I don't think it was a daily routine. I think it got portrayed as a daily routine and a problem. I think if you want to talk problems, Johnny Manziel proved out he had an issue. I think Justin Blackmon proved out he had an issue. And Blackmon, in terms of the background on him, there is something to that. Did the Jags do enough due diligence? Because the more and more stories you hear after Blackmon was gone was he did have a little bit of this going on in college too.
And there's some teams that didn't want to touch Justin Blackmon because of those problems. That had been a record saying we weren't going to draft him regardless of where he was. So as far as the Blake Bortles, listen, I hate to tell everybody, but even quarterbacks in Chicago, quarterbacks in New York, and I'm sure even in New England, they go out and they have drinks. The difference between Chicago, New England, Jacksonville is actually a really small city in terms of where people go out and stuff like that. I mean, you don't really have too many options. Either it's the beach bars or it's downtown. Not too much going on downtown, so it's the beach bars. So from that perspective, yes, maybe he should have stayed inside and drank a little more, but what's wrong with being a little social every once in a while? It wasn't like Blake Bortles was getting DUIs. It wasn't like he was causing fights, causing, a ruckus or whatever. The guy was literally just going out and having a couple beers. And if that's an issue, for your franchise, if that's an issue to you as a fan, then I think you kind of have to reevaluate what you want in a football player, because while they are football players, they're also humans, and humans like to go out and interact and socialize as well. So from the point where Bortles wasn't getting arrested, wasn't causing a scene, wasn't causing drama, if anything, I feel like whenever I saw him at the beach bars, he had a smile on his face. He was, signing autographs, taking pictures with fans and whatnot. So from that perspective, I think it was fine.
Oh, listen, here's the deal. It's as crystal clear as this. I said to someone over the weekend, if Blake Bortles goes out and doesn't turn the ball over the way he has in his career and goes to the AFC Championship game twice, or brings home a Super Bowl, or wins more games than they did, let's just say it's better, he's freaking Joe Namath, because he's your everyday guy that you will see over there at the bar one time, and he'll have a drink with you, and he might even buy you one instead of you buy him one.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about Blake, is he's the everyday guy. That's really cool stuff when you win, when it works out, when you're playing great. When it doesn't, we know what happens. It's the flip side of it. And again, I mean, he's wins and more touchdowns and less turnovers away from being Joe Namath in this town than he is being Justin Blackmon. I mean, it is very far away from being the Blackmon and Manziel part of this. So I think that's dangerous to lump him in with that. I think in the story, in the interview, and you'll hear it later on, this wasn't like, this was a conversation about it, but it's not like, hey, yeah, I really had a problem with this. That's not how it was. So I don't want it to take it out of context in that sense, that this was just a young kid kind of living college life for an extra year or two, is the way it sounded like to me.
And I hate the narrative, too, where, well, if he's out at the beach bars, that means he's not, going over his playbook and he's not watching film. BS, okay? And listen, I wasn't Blake Bortles' teammate by any means, but those guys spend 8-9 hours a day in the stadium. So you mean to tell me that he's not one of the first ones there? He's not watching extra film on top of the 3-4 hours of film he's watching a day? So to sit back and say, well, he's having a couple beers, it means he's not taking his job too seriously, I say BS. And I'm not going to say the real BS because I don't want to get in trouble from Brent, but
yeah,
you know where I'm going with it.
It would be worse than Brent, by the way, if you did that.
The bosses.
The dump button ready for Kuz back in the saddle. So listen, I think we agree on that front. I just thought it was interesting that he talked about that. And again, you'll hear about it coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. But we're mixing some Blake Bortles talk, some football talk with NCAA tournament. Yep. And I had two thoughts, okay? One, Zion. Zion's unbelievable. Everybody's talked about that. You can turn on every show and TV, radio, wherever, anything in the country today, and everybody's still, Zion's special, man. He is special. It's fun to watch. The NCAA tournament this next week, we'll miss him. Absolutely. Duke will miss him. College basketball will miss him. And hopefully he goes to the Knicks and makes that franchise relevant. If that's the way it pans out, he's going to be a good pro, too, I think. And he's seen everything you read about Zion's awesome. You know, something I didn't think got mentioned enough, or maybe I just didn't hear it enough, is he wants the ball in the clutch situation. Now, in that situation, he didn't get the shot at the end. But I'm talking in 2 minutes to go in the game. It feels like a big possession. It's like he wants the ball and he's going to drive and do it. Now, he's not going to drive and be out of control. He'll find an open teammate if that's the case. But he wanted it. You know, and it's not just this game. I saw it throughout the tournament and when we watched Zion Williamson and Duke over the course of the last couple months. I thought that was a cool trait about him. He knows all eyes are on him, and yet he still wants the ball and wants either – I think he almost wants – it if it fails rather than put it on his teammates. He's like, put it on me. You know, I'll be the guy you put it on. And you love seeing that from an athlete, right? That's a special part of being an athlete. That's what we talk about with Michael Jordan. That's what we talk about sometimes where struggled early on with LeBron James and then kind of came around a little bit more with LeBron James. People wondered if he was that. And so Kobe Bryant, you know, when we think basketball, we think of those guys when give me the ball in the big moment, I'll make a play. And I really thought Zion showed that a lot this year at Duke. And I wonder if that translates to the NBA. I just don't think it's a part of the game that's talked about as much when we talk Zion Williamson.
I agree, but let's be honest. If he does take the game-winning shot and miss, who's going to go up to him and be like, you blew it for us? Because the guy looks like Khalil Mack, basically. Yeah. He's like a Khalil Mack stunt double. So in terms of just, you know, he's 6'8", 280 pounds. I think it's generous. Might be 290 with his muscle and whatnot. But he is definitely a special player because when we talked about it last week, Brent, the fact that he really changed the culture and the perception of Duke, and I'm going to stand by that until he gets drafted. I feel like the narrative this year for Duke was different. It wasn't everybody celebrating because Duke's out of the tournament. It was, oh, man, Zion's out of the tournament. Now what are we going to do? Texas Tech, Michigan State? Come on, you know what I'm saying? So
boring.
Yeah, boring, exactly. Virginia, give me a break. So from that perspective, I think that he definitely changed the narrative. People were hoping to see him in the finals. And I'll be honest, I was hoping that, you know, the storybook ending would have been written for him and not just because I had Duke winning the tournament, but just because of what he went through with the shoe blowing out and whatnot. I feel like the ultimate Disney ending would have been him holding up that trophy, cutting down that net, and being a champion.
One last thought on it. Did you see him in the locker room after the game? Did you see that was a sad Duke team? That wasn't a bunch. Well, I thought they were invested, man. Those were guys that they know they're going to get a big check, a lot of them. But they were invested in that. It meant a lot. And remember when we had the whole conversation when he blew out the shoe and he got hurt, does he want to come back? Would he come back? Well, I thought the loss and the emotion and the look on his face said a lot about that. It took us 2 months to maybe get the real answer. But that kid was never thinking about sitting out. That kid wanted to get back on that team, make a run in the tournament, win a national title for that school, for his teammates. And I thought that showed itself. It took us a little bit while to get the true answer, but it certainly played out that way, and it showed up in a loss, I think, more.
One thing I want to touch on when we get back to, I was watching the Auburn-Kentucky game, and I got $1 million idea.
Oh, and Auburn, by the way, is the most exciting team left in the Final Four, without question. They are exciting to watch. Plus, my thought on Gonzaga, a little more NCAA tournament, a little more Blake Bortles, and some other Jag stuff next on ESPN 690. Hey, I think we're going to keep talking.
Okay, let's do it. So do you want to hear my $1 million idea then? I mean, it was about a 5-second tease, but I figured. So listen.
Hey, we teased that thing so much we all went silent in anticipation.
Exactly. So now listen, this is nothing against the NCAA commentators. I think they've been great. They've really been setting the scene and whatnot. But I couldn't help but think, watching that Auburn-Kentucky game, just what was going through Charles Barkley's head and everything, and just how proud he was of Auburn. So here's my $1 million idea. I feel like, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit when it comes to players, where, especially in football and whatnot, where you can get like a microphone on a player and you can kind of follow him instead of the commentary.
Yeah.
why not have like a Charles Barkley commentary where he's in the studio? Charles Cam, where he's in the studio the whole time. And instead of listening to I forgot who was even announcing that game, but instead of listening to the announcers, we can hear Charles Barkley in the studio just kind of break down that game a little bit, just kind of watch the game as he's watching it. Because let's be honest, we live in a world where we love people watching video games. We love people playing with toys. Why wouldn't we want to watch other people watching basketball games?
If you think I think it's the big college football games, college football playoff, ESPN does that.
Yes,
they spread it throughout all their channels, right? Now, the difference is you don't have a character like Charles Barkley, to your point. So I think that's fun. Isn't that the fun of the NBA show? Is that sometimes they'll play clips of what goes on in the breaks, right? Yeah. With Shaquille and with Barkley and Kenny Smith. So I think you're right. I think that would be great. A Charles Cam of sorts, and especially with Auburn in it. You know,
I mean, I think having Charles and maybe even Shaq, if he was around too, would be genius. But obviously, it's even a little extra because Auburn's doing so well this year.
Yeah, absolutely, they are doing really, really well. And I still wonder about. I think people have reservations about Auburn because Bruce Pearl in his past, because of this whole Chuck Person thing with the FBI. Again, listen, but I just say you live in the moment and you appreciate the kids and what they're doing, and the other stuff will iron itself out down the road. I choose not to look at it that way. And I also say, listen, I know it feels like a corrupt sport a lot. It does. And that's not everybody. I hate to blanket it like that, but it does feel they need to fix stuff. And so I'm kind of hypocritical in this sense, but this is our problem too. We choose to just enjoy it and watch it and have fun with it. And that's just the way it is.
And say what you want about Bruce Pearl, but after that Auburn-UNC game when Chuma Okeke ended up going down with torn ACL, I mean, Pearl was almost moved to tears, which I don't think was a fake thing at all. I mean, I think it was a real thing. He was almost moved to tears about that injury.
He may have done some discretions wrong in the past when it comes to the way they do things in college hoops. Doesn't mean he's not a good coach, cares for his players, all those things. That's right. Hey, more to come on ESPN 690. I think we're going to really take a time out here. Hang with us for like 2 minutes.
Built with the biggest names in sports, all on one radio station. Golick and Wingo, Dan Le Batard, Stephen A. Smith, and Action Sports Jack's Brent Martineau every afternoon. Plus, Sports Center updates at the top and bottom of every hour. And major breaking news in sports when it happens. Make us your only button for sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. The all-new ESPN 690.
Hi, this is Dave Barker, owner and client of IHRS. Do you have thinning or balding hair? Now the same technology doctors have used for years to restore cells and tissue growth can restore your hair, utilizing your own plasma and stem cells. PRP can slow or stop your hair loss and restore your thinning hair. Now the procedure is clinically proven safe and effective with no downtime. Call 904-777-IHRS. IHRS is the leader in hair restoration and offers a trademark procedure, NeoGraft hair transplant, the latest technology in hair restoration, laser treatments, and now PRP. This year, grow your hair back. Call 904-777-IHRS for your free evaluation and see the latest technology, PRP, right here in Jacksonville. Call 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we have, and sometimes the most elusive. I'm Glenn Levine from the law offices of Anajar & Levine. If you've been injured in a slip and fall accident, call us at 904-600-4000.
Office in Jacksonville.
The Medical Group Management Association of Northeast Florida is proud to join forces with the Duval County Medical Society to host its first annual symposium on April 18th. Aimed at helping physicians and practice managers to smoothly operate their practice day to day, topics include healthcare trends impacting your practice, stress management and communication, and empathy in the workplace. To register, go to nfmgma.com. That's nfmgma.com. All attendees must be employed by a medical group or practice.
And I'm okay with what Izzo did. You know what you're signing up for. But stop telling me what your bosses would do if you were bad on TV. You are getting paid.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on ESPN 690.
Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30, Action Sports Jax.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
I just checked the update in the bracket.
Not looking good for you.
I just told you, this might be the worst I've ever done. Really, I mean, I've had some stinkers before, but this is terrible. Like, I'm not even interested now in my pool. I mean, look, my wife, I feel so bad. She was in such good shape. I mean, she needed just one win this weekend, and it was over. And she's like currently down. She's in second place, but I think it's a winner take all. But she's in second place by 1 point, and she lost all 4 games this weekend.
Yeah, I had
so close.
I had the possibility of getting 4 of my teams in the Final Four, and obviously Duke got beat, and then I forgot who the other ones were. I didn't want to talk about it. Oh, Kentucky got beat, and then who was the other one? Oh yeah, Gonzaga got beat. So kind of broke my heart, and it sucked too because I had a bid all set up where if they all would have won because they're all favorites.
Jockey?
Yeah, I was gonna have Kuz get me a song and I was gonna play it for you when I walked in and everything, but it just backfired in my face.
I like the fact that you were planning though, but
too bad
I
was trying to plan your eventual demise. I mean, still you're in last place, so I still feel good about it, but it's not a dominating defeat like I wanted.
I'm getting beat by everyone in my family. Screw you guys. I don't care about you guys. I'm getting beat by everyone in the fam.
Brent's getting beat by the world right now.
I feel like we really missed out on an opportunity to make a bunch of Chalk Zone jokes. Did you ever watch that cartoon?
Sure didn't.
Oh, all right. Well, then never mind.
You don't even have to ask me.
Kuz, how are you sitting right now in the bracket?
Every single team that I have continuing is out.
So I'm beating you, right? Or not?
Oh, yeah. No, I will get 0 points going forward.
I love it. Oh, this is a good Monday for me, guys. Thank you.
Guys, have you been fooled at all by the April Fools?
Sure haven't.
Not yet?
Sure haven't.
I was really hoping Tom Brady's was true.
Well, right.
Because then I would have been right. Remember, I kind of predicted that he was going to.
See, here's the thing with
Tom
Brady.
We're on the same page.
No.
We just have to get April Fools out of the way.
But here's the thing with Tom Brady. Is him getting Twitter the April Fool's joke too? Or is it just he has Twitter now?
Yeah, I don't know.
And by the way, he tweets one time and gets a blue check mark. I had to write like a 12-page essay about why I should get a blue check mark.
Oh, you want to talk
Twitter.
about that? It's been a process. I was absent for 1 day here at work.
Yeah.
And it was the day they decided to verify everybody.
Let's
and
get
I missed
serious.
it.
Why do you care?
Oh, dude, the blue check mark's where it's at. Brent, you gave a blue check mark, right?
Of course I do.
Yeah, so don't
worry about
don't
these
sit
things.
on your high horse and look down on everybody, bro. Like, if you have the blue check mark, why are you
it
even
just
doing
makes
it?
everything so much more legit
why
if you
are you
have the
even
blue
doing it?
check.
I'm like Ed Oliver. I'm standing on that horse.
Hey, I like it. Do you want to know the first thing I did when I got my blue check mark?
Tweet about it?
Oh, yeah. I said, hey, Taylor Swift, what's up? I'm verified. Holler at me. She did not holler at me, unfortunately. But, hey.
We got to get...
shoot your shot.
What's the other one? Casey Musgraves.
Casey Musgraves. Oh, yeah. I'm sure my wife would be all over that, Brent. Thank you.
By the way, Casey Musgraves, I think I saw is coming to St. Augustine in October.
Yeah. Tickets already sold out.
Yeah, we got to get her on the show.
Let's do it.
Pump it up.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to come to ESPN Radio and promote your show?
Nah, you just call in. I mean, how hard is it to call in?
Brent, if we get Casey Musgraves, we're going to get her in studio. Let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Let's not even try the calling in part.
No,
got to do it for the stream.
Exactly.
But listen, we thought, Kuz and I were like, hey, we got to do something with Austin on April Fools. But you know what?
Good luck.
It's like everybody's doing it. I'm not even into it. It's like now it's.
Well,
I don't want to call it stupid. I love your creativity sometimes, people, but now it's overdone.
Well, I even thought, like, all right, I'll go get an air horn. I'll put it on the bottom of his seat when he sits down and do it. But then I was thinking, I'm probably going to be in the room, too, and I don't want to blow out my eardrums.
Yeah, I'm like literally like hurting me was what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, it sounds like
an air horn in here? Are you kidding me? My eardrums would have been shot. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been.
Well, you got headphones on.
Ears bleeding. Oh, I'm sure this will make a. Hey, Bose. Hey, shout out to Bose. Where if I play an air horn right next to me, and if they cancel that out, I'm gonna give them my full endorsement.
What they need to do though is move April Fools, and not tell anybody, so we can really have like it start over because it's done. It's stupid now. April Fools is dumb unless you're like 6.
So this begs the question, quick, Brent. What's the biggest April Fool's joke that you ever encountered where someone got you?
Yeah, and this is my most memorable one. And it was when I was a little kid, and you just have no idea about it. Well, my grandfather, he dropped off like a box to my sisters and me. And this sounds very silly and simple, but it was one of those deals where it was like a box within a box within a box within a box. I mean, it went on for days. Like I remember I remember it. You know, when I think April Fool's, I think of my grandfather and him putting this box together. And I think he did it various times, like throughout our childhood. But I think there was like a stick of gum in the bottom of it or something. I mean, that was it. It was like nothing. And so that was kind of my first recollection of April Fool's Day. But outside of that, it's nothing like, did you see the McVeigh Kingsbury thing?
Yeah.
And
yep.
Nothing like that to me. Anything big for you?
Nothing big for me. I don't think it was actually April Fool's, but it was kind of around the time. And this is going to bring back some sad memories. But going into my senior year of high school, obviously I had aspirations to play D1 football. And my friends, because, back then, like, you couldn't tell who was really calling you on your cell phone. They could private. Yeah, so it was a private number.
ID.
So it was a private number. I was at one of my friends' houses, and I get a phone call. And it was the University of Illinois offering me a full scholarship. And that was the first full scholarship I got, and I was literally in tears. I'll never forget this. I ran out of my friend's house, screaming up and down. I drove home, met my mom in the kitchen, gave her a big hug. I'm like, I'm going to be a Fighting Illini. I'm going to sign. Like, they called me. They offered. Let's do this. And then I get a phone call from my friend Boyle, who was like, yeah, that was just me, dude.
Ah, man.
So
that was pretty bad.
That was really bad, yeah.
You can really mess with the emotion of people.
Oh, I was not a happy camper after that.
The McVeigh one's pretty good, where he had they had a similar acquaintance, Kingsbury and him, and they had Goodell, or he put his phone in instead as McVeigh as Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
And so they accused Kingsbury of tampering, and you're going to lose the number 1 pick. And he said when he showed it to him, it was like he saw a ghost, which was kind of cool.
We played this prank on one of my teammates in college. This is so bad, but. At his apartment, we put a note in his mailbox that had a picture of a baby, and we said that this girl got pregnant on spring break, and this is the kid's child. Well, we put it in April 1st. He didn't check his mail till April 5th, so the joke was already over. So he gets the letter, dude, and like he literally thought like this
See, that's what's got to happen. We got to move April Fools around. That's
move it
the
up
deal.
a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, if you're hanging on for my Gonzaga, why it's like FSU baseball, hang for another couple minutes. It's next, and we're going to get back to some Jags talk. 8 wins, that's it? Is that your prediction? Next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
Happy Monday. I'm Jake Mitchell. The Final Four is set with the finalists ready to meet this weekend in Minneapolis. Michigan State and Texas Tech will square off first, and then Virginia and Auburn will battle after that. Here is Texas Tech coach Chris Beard.
Certainly the team we're playing, Michigan State, one of the standards in all college basketball, the consistency that Coach Izzo and their team has. Specifically on this year's tournament, we won the Big 12 regular season title. We shared it with Coach Weber and K-State. And that was the message, like, that's over. Nobody can ever take that from us. Let's try to be a factor in March as well. And for the most part, the guys have really embraced that.
The Jacksonville Icemen have clinched a spot in the Kelly Cup playoffs. They had to have some help, and they had to win some games. Both things happened, and now the playoffs are coming to Jacksonville. Stay connected with ESPN 690 while you're at work by listening on ESPN690.com.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation present the 2019 Take Steps Jacksonville Walk on April 13th at Memorial Park right here in Jacksonville. Registration begins at 9 a.m. and the walk begins at 11. Supporters are encouraged to create a team and raise money to help change the lives of the almost 18,000 residents of Northeast Florida affected. For more information, visit cctakesteps.org/Jacksonville 2019. That's cctakesteps.org/Jacksonville 2019.
Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, presented by Community First, returns this week. Opening weekend is this Thursday through Monday. Don't miss opening day, presented by Firehouse Subs and Rimrock Devlin, with free magnet schedules courtesy of Crawford Electric. And postgame fireworks. Tickets start at $5. Call 358-2846 or jackshrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball. Affordable family fun.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Here's what's happening. Kentucky has offered basketball coach John Calipari a lifetime contract. The deal would be a combination of a head coaching extension and a paid role as an ambassador following his retirement. The Athletic reported Calipari had been in contact with UCLA about its coaching position and had offered him 6 years, $48 million. At Kentucky, he's currently the highest paid basketball coach in the country. Total compensation this year, $9.2 million. The 8 NFL teams with new head coaches can begin off-season workouts this week or next. Cleveland and first-year coach Freddie Kitchens opting to do that today. Following a busy offseason, Cleveland a popular pick to win the AFC North. And the pressure's on for the Browns, but Kitchens doesn't mind, explains ESPN's Dan Graziano.
The idea of having all these great players and having to make something out of that, I mean, what would you rather be? I mean, you look at it, there are coaches around the league who have a lot less to work with, who you could say would be under a lot more pressure to win and have a lot more difficult time doing it.
NBA, Philadelphia's Jimmy Butler out tonight against the Mavericks because of a back issue.
The Pizzone from Pizza Hut. It's meaty, cheesy, and you know it's big. The Pepperoni Pizzone is back and part of the $5 lineup. 2 or more, just $5 each. No one outpizzas the Hut. Ask or click for offer. Product availability, prices, participation, and delivery areas and minimums vary. Delivery charge is not a driver tip.
Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30, Action Sports Jax.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Your shock value when Hackett got fired?
Oh, that was big. You know, I didn't think that would happen. I thought, maybe I would get benched.
Which you did the same day.
Right, which is kind of an odd move. I don't know if I understand that one. That was different. You know, we had been together for 4 years, and I owe him a ton. He taught me a ton, and to watch him get fired, without any inclination of that coming, I knew I wasn't playing good at the time. I thought there was a chance that I got benched, but for him to get fired, I thought was that was surprising for sure.
That's more of our interview with Blake Bortles over the weekend. We're an hour away from hearing it in its entirety. It's, pretty lengthy, quite honestly. Got to do with community a little bit and his Blake Bortles Foundation. Something to do with being a dad, who a lot of people didn't even realize he had a kid. And then, of course, a lot with the Jags. What went wrong and now what could go right in L.A. All of those on the docket for the Blake Bortles interview coming up at 5 o'clock, including more on Hackett, and also asked him what was up with that locker room last year. So you'll hear more of it coming up in just a bit on ESPN 690 on a Monday afternoon, 4 o'clock hour. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane. Coos is back, and the happy hour horn never goes away.
Grab a drink, get a shot, and tip your startenders.
Oh, very nice. Still recovering from
More
Kirchen.
classy. Yeah, I am still recovering from Kirchen. I will never be the same after Kirchen take 2.
Did a couple of them now.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to get this in. Speaking of a little baseball, this is Kathy right now is probably.
Oh, she's
just screaming at me. She's
Yeah.
like, "Are you going to keep teasing that and not say anything about it?" Listen, we got on blue check marks on April Fool's Day. Sometimes things take precedent. But, all right, here's the deal. I got thinking of this. I love Gonzaga. Love him. Love the story. I love Mark Few. Think he's awesome. I pick Gonzaga a lot because I really want to see them win one. And in that sense, I'm starting to believe they're no different than Florida State baseball. Florida State is a team that's gotten to the party a lot of times under Mike Martin. They haven't won one. I mean, the guy's about to retire. This is his last year. He's been 40 years. He's 40 straight years, I think it is, of 40-win seasons. Might even be 41. 2,000 wins. Hey, guy's one of the best ever, but he doesn't have a ring. And listen, I'm a huge Dan Marino fan growing up. I am not one of these people that believe you have to have championships and rings to be considered amongst the great. Dan Marino, to me, is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he never won one. And you can argue that all day. But it didn't take – some people might have 3 rings or 2 rings or 1 ring, and they're not trumping Dan Marino from playing the quarterback position, in my view. And I understand it's the ultimate it's kind of the test when you talk about the GOAT, and there is some validity to it when you talk about the best of in sports, where you have to have the championships and the trophies. And I think it comes into view for me when we link guys together, like if we talk about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, if we talk about Joe Montana versus Tom Brady. I do think there's a separation with championships, but I've just never been this hardcore believer that, didn't win a championship, can't be considered amongst the top 5. No way, can't even do it. And some people believe that, and they really believe that. Well, I watched Dan Marino, and I watched just about every game of his career as a kid, and they didn't have a lot around him for a lot of those times. So I don't believe that. Now, I also believe the College World Series, from a baseball standpoint, is about as big a crapshoot as you can get in sports. The best team does not win the College World Series often. 7, 8 out of 10 times they don't win. It's just the way it is. It's a weird deal. It's baseball, and it's an unusual tournament in Omaha for a lot of different reasons. It just doesn't happen. It hasn't happened for Florida State, and it hasn't happened for Mike Martin. And I think it's a shame that it hasn't happened, because it's the only thing you can say, well, he hasn't won one. He hasn't won one. He's still unbelievable. But Gonzaga's, to me, starting to fall into that. And I feel for them a little bit, because to me they won't be considered as good as they've been these last 2 decades, as great of a job as they've done to build that program from scratch pretty much. Yeah, they had John Stockton, but just out of that, they didn't have much else. And for them to compete with all the big boys for the last decade really on a continuous basis is unbelievable. It's one of the great stories in sports, and probably not talked about enough. They have 1 national championship runner-up finish in the last 20 years. But they hardly went to the NCAA tournament before 1999. So runner-up finish, and 4 Elite Eights in the last 20 years, and 10 Sweet 16s. Every other year they're making the Sweet 16 is Gonzaga. That's an unbelievable run. But they are, to me, what hit me this weekend is, Mark Few is going to be Mike Martin. They're going to always have this over him to say he can't win it. And if you look at Florida State, they national championship runner-up 3 different times in their history in baseball, 22 College World Series appearances. That means they were the final 8 teams 22 different times and have been unable to win it. I mean, it's like, what's her name? Was it Susan Sarandon, who kept winning, getting second place at the Oscars or something like that? I don't know, whoever it was.
I don't.
Leo.
Huh?
Leonardo DiCaprio. He went years without getting an Oscar, right?
Well, it's Meryl Streep is this time, but there used to be someone else that
Meryl Streep is the baller, though. She's like the New England Patriots, right, of actresses? I think Meryl Streep's won 10 of them.
No, it wasn't. I thought, who did they put in the front row this year at the Oscars, and you really wanted her to win Best Actress or something? It wasn't Meryl Streep?
I don't think so. I feel like Meryl Streep's won a couple of them.
Okay.
But
anyway.
I'll go and look into that.
Maybe I shouldn't have made this analogy.
No, I thought it was great, man. I haven't heard the name Susan Sarandon in forever. That's why I laughed about it.
I thought there was someone that was like the poster child for a runner-up in Best Actress or something like that. But either way, you get my point.
Exactly.
And it's weird. It's like you celebrate their success. The success is unbelievable, but I don't know, man. I don't know if Gonzaga and Mark Few are ever going to win one. They had a fantastic team this year, and they've had some really good teams.
Was it Glenn Close?
It was Glenn Close this year. Yeah. That's right. My bad.
No, all good. So yeah, let me ask you this question.
Let's get off the actresses.
Yeah.
And then I'll be cruising a little better.
Let me ask you this question. When we're comparing Gonzaga to Florida State baseball, in a baseball, in the NCAA baseball tournament or basketball tournament, which one do you need a little more luck on? Because you said it's a crapshoot. I don't follow the NCAA baseball tournament religiously. Do you say it's a crapshoot just from the fact that with pitching, you got to make the changes and whatnot, you got to limit the pitchers, how many innings they can pitch, or what makes you say that?
That's a very good call. Well, you can be for years that ballpark That ballpark has changed. Like now, the ballpark they play in is huge. And so the ball doesn't fly out of the yard all the time. So now you might go from playing in your own yard or being a team down here where you might hit home runs and power. Well, you're not going to get many balls out of the yard there, so you better be able to play small ball, situational ball. Might be a different game when you get there.
Gotcha.
Now, that's just maybe a one-off answer. There's probably a myriad of answers. One, maybe they don't have enough starting pitching. Maybe they don't have relievers. Maybe they just choke when they get there. I mean, they've been 22 times, and I can guarantee you this: 22 times. There were probably a handful of times Florida State, on paper, had the best team in the country, and there may have even been more, and they just didn't win. It's just that kind of tournament. I think I've seen Florida go for years before finally winning it, and they had great teams, didn't win it. I think people all over the country can say it. I feel like if you're that good a team, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, I think eventually maybe the Gonzagas, if you're really that good, you'll win an NCAA tournament. You'll win a national championship in basketball. I think it might be more of a crapshoot in college baseball.
See, the only reason I'm going to disagree with you is the fact that when you're talking the NCAA basketball tournament, you only get one game. I mean, one would think that if it was like a best-of-5 or best-of-7 series, Gonzaga would probably beat Texas Tech in that series, right?
Yeah.
But,
good point.
But when you're throwing one game in the mix, anything can happen. And that's, it's such, I don't know how much stake you want to put into, like how great a coach really is in the NCAA basketball tournament. Like, yes, you have your greats. Tom Izzo's won a lot of games. Krzyzewski's won a lot of games. But, man, it's just, it's hard to imagine that you have to have some kind of luck. Okay,
I agree with that.
I mean,
anybody who wins has luck.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Patriots got a pass interference call. They have the best quarterback all the time. They got a roughing the passer call on an invisible play.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody gets luck when you win.
Yeah,
everybody. I don't care how the Warriors may win. They'll get a little bit of luck along the way, right?
And I think like just getting back to the point where these aren't 3-game series, these aren't 5-game series, and that's what makes the NCAA basketball tournament so fantastic is the fact that anytime one team can win one game. Literally anybody. We saw it last year. A 16 seed beat Virginia. You never know what's going to happen. Now, getting back to your point in baseball, is it 5-game series or 3 games?
No. In college baseball, it's a double elimination tournament.
Okay, double elimination
tournament. So it's double elimination, and then the final series is a 3-game set. And that's changed over the years, too, the formatting. But let me tell you that if you lose the first game in a double elimination, it's a long way back. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of stress on the first game or two in the College World Series, too. I think you bring up a fair point, though. I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know which one's more difficult to do. I think there have been a lot of the best teams in the country, right? Mm-hmm. Number 1 seeds along the way that have lost a lot of NCAA tournaments. So if you add it up, maybe they are about equal. But I'm telling you, those two schools for me right now, in my mind, are not far off. And I really want Florida State to win one. I want Mike Martin to win it this year. I don't think they are, but I want them to. And I want Mark Few to win it because I think it means so much to the outside to have a championship.
Here's the question, Brent. Which team is going to win their first championship? Florida State baseball or Gonzaga basketball?
Florida State baseball.
Okay.
When Mike Martin leaves, this is the way it works sometimes. Mike Martin leaves, they'll win one within 5 years. You watch.
Okay.
It's not on him. It's just
exactly.
Weird. It's just a weird deal.
That's the sport. Okay.
Sometimes that stuff happens. Hey, when we come back, the Jags, 8 wins are better or worse? What do you think in 2019 next?
Hey, it's Trey Wingo from Golick and Wingo, and you're listening to ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
Hi, this is Dave Barker, owner and client of IHRS. Do you have thinning or balding hair? Now the same technology doctors have used for years to restore cells and tissue growth can restore your hair, utilizing your own plasma and stem cells. PRP can slow or stop your hair loss and restore your thinning hair. Now the procedure is clinically proven safe and effective with no downtime. Call 904-777-IHRS. IHRS is the leader in hair restoration and offers a trademark procedure, NeoGraft hair transplant, the latest technology in hair restoration, laser treatments, and now PRP. This year, grow your hair back. Call 904-777-IHRS for your free evaluation and see the latest technology PRP, right here in Jacksonville. Call 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477.
I've got a big old case of spring fever, only it's not the kind that makes me want to clean. Who wants to do that? It's the kind that makes you want to get behind the wheel of a brand new Toyota and save. At Arlington Toyota, they've got over 1,000 new and pre-owned on the lot every day. So Arlington Toyota's got what you need to make your spring fever all better. Ready to join the club? It's the Arlington Toyota $5,000 Advantage Club, and it comes with your new or pre-owned purchase, packed with discounts on service and parts, trade-in cash, and even a national lifetime warranty with unlimited time and miles for new purchases. And have you heard about Arlington Toyota's iPreCheck service? Powered by TransUnion, iPreCheck instantly gives you your real-time credit score, interest rate, payment, and pre-qualification without affecting your score. And there's no Social Security number required. Cure your spring fever and save with a new Toyota from Arlington Toyota. Shop them in person at 10939 Atlantic Boulevard or online anytime at arlingtontoyota.com. Change the life of a child by joining Arlington Toyota and supporting Take Stock in Children. Visit TakeStockInChildren.org to become a mentor today.
Is Gronk the best tight end to ever play the game? Rob Gronkowski, for his career, touchdowns per game, 0.69. Nice. God bless that young man.
Golick and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 690.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. You're listening to Action Sports Jacks with our friend Brent Martineau on ESPN 690.
Jags have a new running back. Just signed Alfred Blue, the former Houston Texan, spent 5 years with the Texans, and yeah, it was okay. 3.6 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns. Just okay. You know, his best season, 700 yards back in 2015. He's a complimentary back. Can catch it a bit out of the backfield a little bit.
I think he was a pretty big focus on Hard Knocks when they were with the
really?
Texans. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Hey, Jags game day experience. If you guys don't have Will Ferrell saying, "You're my boy, Blue," every time he touches the ball, you guys should get fired. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. I mean, you just gave a great idea and then fired somebody.
Well, if they don't do it, they should be fired. And getting back to Blue, listen, obviously this is a depth.
Be careful what you don't do.
I'm going to break down the
careful
analysis.
what you don't do, because of course you've been fired by about 15 different times already.
I was going to say, I don't do a lot of things either, too.
The only guy he hasn't fired, I mean, heck, we had Jake Ryan on, the new Jags linebacker.
Oh, he's fired.
He kicked him off the show.
I heard. I saw those tweets going around.
The only guy hasn't fired really is Scott, who filled in last week.
I haven't fired you either.
You probably have.
I haven't because you hired me. I'm not gonna fire the guy that hired me.
Wait until you get a blue check mark.
Exactly. Well, I'm just gonna wait till Mike Golick starts, bringing me into the intro and everything like that. Blue check marks. Mike Golick talking about you. Now we're talking about. Anyways, let's get back to my in-depth running back depth analysis here. Obviously, Blue's coming in for a running back depth, but also people got to keep in mind, he's kind of a special teams guy as well. So from that perspective, you got to have special teams dudes. He's one that can fit that role. I think he played all 4 spots, if I'm not mistaken, Houston on special teams. Yeah. Huh. So from that perspective, I think it's a great signing for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, listen, it's a depth signing, like you said, and I think that's fair enough. I don't get excited about this signing, but I think they need some depth. They need depth at tight end and running back, and they do at the offensive line too. But I think if you look at those spots, they still need depth. I think they're going to draft a running back somewhere along the way. But if you look at their backfield as you would think it would materialize at this moment, you have obviously Leonard Fournette, Thomas Rawls, and now Alfred Blue.
And Rawls isn't playing special teams at all. He never has. He never will.
Yeah,
so.
and so that makes sense. And now you really don't. You probably don't have to get a young guy, but I think you still do get a young guy. I think you'll draft. I mean, you'll get an undrafted free agent and you'll fill the room. But I'm saying in the draft, they spend a 3rd round pick on. Look, I've mentioned the Singletary kid a few times from FAU, but whoever it is, and I think it'll be a little different style. To me, I'm just thinking about watching these guys run without going back and reading a bunch on them. I mean, I know what Fournette is, but Rawls and Blue, they're not really that different. They're not as much of a banger, but they're not like change of pace, scat back kind of guys either, So to me, you want, if you're going to get someone in the draft, you're going to get somebody with a little electricity. That was the thing about Corey Grant. Corey Grant was going to give you a little a little thump at sometimes if you needed it, but he was going to give you speed. And he was going to be a guy you could do some fun things with. To me, at least in the running back room right now with Fournette, Rawls, Blue, after signing him today, they don't really have a guy back there they can do fun things with, if you will.
And Alfred Blue was the backup, obviously, to Miller, who came over from the Dolphins.
Yep.
And
he's done okay.
Well, he did okay, but he actually started out kind of underachieving a lot. And the thought was that Blue would kind of take over some of his reps or whatever, maybe be, the bona fide starter going forward. And Blue just couldn't keep it together. So, and obviously Miller kind of had a resurgence this past season, especially towards the end of the year. So maybe he's going to get a fresh start. Obviously, I think that the starter's in place with Leonard Fournette. Rawls will be fighting for reps too as well. So nothing wrong with a little, running back competition.
Yeah, I think, by the way, he's going to be 28 years old. So he's got a little gas left in the tank. Another LSU guy, Terry Robisky's bringing in all the LSU guys.
Lots of LSU guys.
Robisky's an LSU guy, Fournette, and now Alfred Blue as well. He was a 2014 sixth-round draft pick. So Alfred Blue. With the Jags. Well, Kuz put this out on social media last night. He saw an article about predicting the Jags with 8 wins in 2019. Now, listen, a lot to do. It's tough to predict, but it's not like the Jags are waiting on a quarterback in the draft. The Jags are waiting on either a lineman, a backup pass rusher probably, or a tight end. And while I think the tight end could be the most significant to maybe say, oh, maybe that's worth an extra win, or if they don't get, maybe it's worth an extra loss, I really don't think you are going to find too much in the draft that's going to change your expectation of wins and losses. People disagree with me on that. When Kuz put this out and we started sharing it on social media, let's wait till after the draft. And I don't know how much the draft is going to impact. Think last year's draft. Did that impact the Jags win-loss wise?
It didn't, but in terms of, seeing these numbers and whatnot, you have to remember, you really can't place a bet in Vegas for the team total over and under until usually September, just for the fact that if you had the opportunity to place a bet right now, a lot of people would vote for the under because there's injuries and whatnot, and things can happen. So from that perspective, this is kind of just like a broad baseline, obviously. I remember when the season ended, the Jaguars the over-under was 6.5. So it has jumped up a little bit, assuming Nick Foles came in and everything like that. So is Foles good for, if my math is right, 1.5 games? We'll see.
Wouldn't you think so, though? I mean, wouldn't you think so? Listen, go back to Blake last year, okay? And I really think the Kansas City game changed everything. And Kansas City, I don't necessarily believe the Kansas City game was all on him. They did not chip those guys on the edge, and they should have. That was a bad game planning day for the Jags, and that impacted the way that whole thing went and started a downward spiral. But I think the Tennessee game where they only score a couple of field goals, I think you can put it on a quarterback where they don't get more than 6 points. I think that's fair. I think Kansas City, will just chalk up as one of those games. Dallas, the whole thing stunk, man. They got routed in Dallas. I will not put the Philadelphia game in London on Blake. I thought he was the best player on the field. Keelan Cole messed up right before the first half. That was a 10-point swing. That changed things. I do think the Buffalo game, as close as it was, you hope Foles wins that game, where Blake did not go and win that game. I think the Miami game, Miami they did beat, sorry. So those are at least the first two that jump to mind, Tennessee and Buffalo. So there's a couple of wins. You would hope a guy like Foles, with the upside of Foles, at least this much or however much you want to claim is better than Blake, you think he gets you those 2 wins.
If I had the opportunity right now, if the number was 6.5, if I could put my son's college fund on the line and bet the whole thing, I'd bet the over all day.
I've done that a lot over the last decade.
And you know what?
I haven't really done it, but it's a good thing I didn't do it.
I'm just saying I would do it in a heartbeat, and if it backfired for me, well, you better get a scholarship, son. That's all I'm going to say. You better get a sports scholarship because we're screwed. But at 6.5,
you can get a scholarship in hugging, I can tell you that.
There you go. I feel like at 6.5, you definitely take the over. 8 is intriguing to me. But this kind of leads me to another question I have for you, and a more important question, I think, regarding the franchise of where they go from here. What's the magic number, in your opinion, that the Jaguars have to have in order for Caldwell and the entire coaching staff to come back?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I thought somebody put that in some of the responses was, well, if they only get 8 wins, these guys aren't coming back. And I thought it made me think a little bit. That was good. Yeah, keep in
in
mind
a hard division, probably the hardest division top to bottom.
Yeah, you could start arguing it is. But that's where they've got to show some growth to me, right? They can't keep losing to Tennessee. They've got to show they're in the mix with Indianapolis. And listen, if you split with two of the teams and you've got to feel like you sweep the other two, you've got to go 3-3 at worst this year in the division. 4-2 is kind of the hopeful one. And then if you go anything better than that, you're going to the playoffs in my estimation. But you have to show Shad Khan that you're a team to beat in the AFC South, I would think. That's a great starting point. Forget about the big wins. Forget about the overall number. I mean, 8 or 9 or whatever it might take. I think it starts in their division. This is a division that does look like it's on an upward trend, and you have to show that you are right there with them, especially since you're pretty much built to win. I mean, you have basically said this year, much like they did a couple years ago with Gus Bradley, said, well, it's Gus's fault. Now we're keeping almost everything else. It's Gus's fault. And you know what? They went to the AFC Championship game. Well, now they went back down. So, I mean, it's who knows? They basically said this year it's Blake's fault. We can't do this with Blake. Blake's out. Now what? And, I mean, they have a lot of the same pieces. Yeah, they got rid of some. Malik Jackson, right? I mean, they got rid of Tayshaun Gibson. They got rid of some other pieces.
But that happens to every single team.
That was business. They could have kept Blake and got rid of those pieces. So I think this is now, okay, someone in that building sold Shad Khan to stay, that we're ready if we fix the quarterback spot. Somebody did. I don't know who did, or he just believed it. Tom Coughlin did. Doug Marrone did. Dave Caldwell did. They did it collectively. I don't know. But they said, if you give us if we get a better quarterback, we got a chance to do this. And if you said that to them, which I believe that's probably what they said, then the expectation will be probably to go at least 9-7. Because listen, 9-7 in the NFL is, I know it doesn't sound great. 9-7 in the NFL is pretty good.
I completely agree, but here's the thing. So the Jaguars are at 8 games over and under. Titans 8.5. Texans 8.5. The Colts 9.
Read that again for me, sir.
Yep, no problem. Titans 8.5. The Texans 8.5, and the Colts are at 9.
Wow.
So Vegas is going to tell you
wide open division.
Well, that's my point though. But Vegas is telling you that if the Jaguars get 8 games, they're going to finish in last place. So my question to you is, say they go 9-7, pretty successful season compared to last year, but they finish 3rd in the division. Does that warrant everybody coming back?
Yeah, I would say
it's a hard question.
I would say yes, because I think it's hard to improve 4 games and win 9 games in the NFL. All you got to do is look at this history here. It's not great. I mean, even 8-8's been tough for this franchise. So I would say yes. But the caveat to that when you ask those kind of questions is, okay, how did it manifest itself? Were they 3-1 and then hit the tank again? You know, because that starts showing up on the coaching staff too then. So if they're going into December and they're 5-7 and roll off 4 in a row and give themselves a chance at a wild card or something like that, well, maybe that's worthy to keep. So I think the ebbs and flows of the season do play it because the emotion really gets high, right?
But yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, say they start out slow. Maybe they go 1-4, 1-5. Well, then what doesn't warrant them maybe making some changes right off the bat? You know, so it's
Shad Khan has been adamant that midseason changes he doesn't want to do.
Exactly.
Doesn't want to do. Now, I mean, I know there were 2 games left in the season when Gus got let go, but that season was essentially over at that point. But midseason, owners don't like doing it. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not a it's the last resort thing.
But I'm just saying,
1-5 might warrant it.
Well, I'm just saying, in a worst case scenario, you go 1-5. The fan base is calling for everybody to go. I mean, there's pressure on you as an owner. Then let's be honest.
Yeah, the other game I was thinking, by the way, was the Redskins game. They lost 16-13. They lost to Freeman, for crying out loud. I mean, who hadn't played in like years. And I think, well, was that even Blake though? That might have been Kessler, or is that the Blake game? Heck, I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, the point is, they're basically saying Foles is worth what you said, 1.5 games. I think it's more than that. I think Foles, with that contract, he better be worth 3+ games on that win-loss record. I think 9-7 is a fair, conservative guess for the Jags to be happy at ownership.
One more question for you. Does anybody that they take in the first round of the draft, does it up your number at all?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody. Okay,
No, that's why
nobody
you don't
at
have
all.
to tell me about the draft.
Okay,
Nah.
doesn't matter.
Nah, I
Interesting.
can't lean on a rookie that much on the offensive side of the ball. When we
Interesting.
come back, influential athletes and one that, well, Austin thought was an April Fool's joke.
It
Next.
is.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
Happy Monday. I'm Jake Mitchell. The Final Four is set with the finalists ready to meet this weekend in Minneapolis. Michigan State and Texas Tech will square off first, and then Virginia and Auburn will battle after that. Here is Texas Tech coach Chris Beard.
Certainly the team we're playing, Michigan State, one of the standards in all college basketball, the consistency that Coach Izzo and their team has. Specifically on this year's tournament, we won the Big 12 regular season title. We shared it with Coach Weber and K-State. And that was the message. That's over. Nobody can ever take that from us. Let's try to be a factor in March as well. And for the most part, the guys have really embraced that.
The Jacksonville Icemen have clinched a spot in the Kelly Cup playoffs. They had to have some help, and they had to win some games. Both things happened, and now the playoffs are coming to Jacksonville. Stay connected with ESPN 690 while you're at work by listening on ESPN690.com.
It's time for another shout out to all the North Florida poker fans. This is Allie McDeal from both Best Bet Poker Rooms in Jacksonville and Orange Park. The Card Player Poker Tour returns to Jacksonville May 3rd. This series will host 12 total events and over $300,000 in guarantees. The main event features an $1,100 no-limit hold'em tournament with a $200,000 guaranteed prize pool. Don't miss your chance to take a shot at over $300,000. For more information, visit them on the web at bestbetjacks.com.
There are many paths to take to launch a successful small business. The first step is to start with a good roadmap, such as a business plan. If you need help putting one together, let one of the mentors at SCORE help. Since 1964, SCORE has been assisting aspiring and current entrepreneurs through a nationwide network of 10,000 volunteers with expertise in many different fields. In the Jacksonville area, our mentors can meet with clients at 6 different locations. If you want to schedule a free confidential appointment, go to jacksonville.score.org.
The 2019 Harrell & Harrell Performance Studio is here, and it's better than ever. It's your chance to meet the personalities on the new ESPN 690. Sit in the front row and ask your questions to athletes in town, sports analysts, and experts. You'll be able to see them in person. It's going to be the best year yet. So listen to ESPN 690 for your chance to win your way in throughout the year. It's the Harrell & Harrell Performance Studio. Brought to you by Harrell & Harrell.
Outside of, I know the answer was it was a business decision. Couldn't pass that up. A 1 and a 3 and a player in Jabril Peppers. Is Jabril Peppers that 1 or that 3? Is any of them going to get close to the talent of Odell Beckham Jr.?
Golic and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 690.
Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30, Action Sports Jack.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
You're due $6.5 million from the Jags no matter what. Was there a party that said, hey, sign me for $1 and make those guys pay the rest?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about just not playing next year, going to all the home Jags games, sitting in the crowd.
No, you can be the guy that heckles someone.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, wearing my big Brandon Linder jersey in the crowd. But, no, all that, I have no idea how that stuff works. I asked somebody the other day, so do they pay the Rams and then the Rams pay me, or do I don't know how any of that works. So, I'm unbelievably fortunate to be able to play the game I love and get paid to do it. So, whoever pays that money, I appreciate it.
It's greatest. That was great. I knew he would have an answer. I knew he had to think about that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, wouldn't you want to kind of spurn and burn the old team if you can? Everybody gets mad at stuff, whether it's you didn't get hired for a promotion or you didn't get the raise you wanted or you got cut, and you just love to, quite frankly, give the middle finger to, whoever did it. And, but I figured Bortles, I wasn't expecting that answer from Blake.
No, that was classic.
But I figured he'd have one.
That was classic, especially not knowing, where the money's coming from and whatnot.
That's not new for Blake, by the way. When when that whole deal, no, seriously, that whole option thing, hey, this is why I hire an agent, I guess. Remember when he was due with the option or coming up on the option year, he was asked about that. He's like, guys, I have no idea how that works. I mean, he was genuine. Like, he really had no clue, hadn't thought about it. And I guess he just lets his agents do the work. More of the Blake Bortles interview, in fact, in its entirety, coming up at 5 o'clock right here on ESPN 690 as we sat down exclusively with Blake Bortles over the weekend in Oviedo, Florida. A couple things to get to. WrestleMania, by the way, coming up on Sunday.
Yes,
Nick
sir.
just popped in and said, you excited about it?
WrestleMania week, of course I'm excited about it. Can't wait to talk about it on the show for the next 5 days.
Oh, yeah, me either. Coach Cal gets a lifetime contract? Kentucky?
I mean, what does that mean?
Well, what is he, like 60?
I'm just letting you guys know, if you want to offer me a lifetime contract,
dude,
we can negotiate
We go
this.
day by day with you.
Yeah. You're on an hour-by-hour basis right now, okay? Pump
We
the
have
brakes a
performance
little bit.
reviews every hour.
He's 60 years old. And by the way, we were talking about Gonzaga and FSU. Does Calipari get enough heat for only winning one title with Kentucky? You know, I mean, he probably doesn't. And you know what this deal speaks to me? You never know with Calipari. He's got a pass, too. And Kentucky must feel like everything's good shape, good order, and they're good to go. And they're riding with Calipari, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm glad. I mean, they must – if something was on the verge, of breaking down with all this FBI stuff going on, they sure as heck wouldn't give him a lifetime deal. So I think it's a good sign that things look to be on the up and up. And listen, you hate to say that but that's college basketball. You have to wonder about it, just the way it is.
Especially with Calipari and Bruce Pearl as well. I mean, you look at some of these bigger names in college basketball, and you wonder.
It's a shame, but you got to do it. We wonder if Stuart Weber's on the up and up. We know his hair's on the up.
Yeah, I had to construct a little bit there. I got rained on for a couple hours.
Yeah, you were out at Sawgrass Country Club.
Cold. And
John Haidt
windy
Invitational.
And rainy. Yeah, the Haidt Invitational. And after a couple hours out there, I was hating golf.
Yeah.
Because
You think you were. They were.
Oh, my goodness.
How about the scores?
Oh, yeah, the scores were not good.
That's tough conditions when it's a nasty day.
It was really tough. But UNF.
Excuses, huh? Okay.
UNF gets the top 5 out there
That's cool.
against a bunch of ACC and SEC schools.
They'll be disappointed in that, by the way.
They will, yeah. This is a top 20 ranked team in the country. They had a putt, by the way, for solo second.
Oh, it got that close.
Yeah.
Wow, they came back a little bit down the stretch
They
then.
did. But a good lesson. Good lesson. I talked to Coach Schroeder after the round, and he's like, yeah, we're going to put the clubs away for a few days and just kind of, forget about the day and just learn some lessons from, adversity, handling it, playing in tough conditions. And it was bad. It was bad out there. I had the golf cart angled in a way to where I was trying to use it to block the wind so I could shoot without getting, because the rain was coming sideways. It wasn't coming from this, from up top.
Yeah.
It was blowing in.
Anyway, you can check out some of that tonight on Fox 30 and CBS 47 for Action Sports Jacks. I know where he's coming from because we had him on Friday, and he said, well, we know the weather's coming in. We have to be mentally ready for it. And then I saw a quote, I think, on their website today after yesterday's matches where he said, now we have to embrace the conditions of tomorrow. Like, we know it's going to be bad. We know it's going to. And so that's what he's probably referring to. Interesting from a coaching level to hear him say that.
It got a little unlucky, too, because Tennessee won by about 15 shots because they played earlier in the day.
Yes, I saw that.
They
Tennessee got out early, got in the clubhouse.
Normal round, and then they were just sitting dry and enjoying it, and they won the
title. And they still played well. It's not like it was unbelievable earlier in the day, but they still played well.
But it wasn't puddles in the middle of the fairway. It wasn't whipping the wind quite like it was in the afternoon.
See, Tennessee, I'm sorry you didn't get the Final Four, but you got the John Haidt invitation.
There you
go. Here in Sawgrass.
I think an Auburn kid got a hole-in-one, too, so everything's going their way.
Not Mancino, right?
I do not know which one it was.
Kid from Mandarin, I think. Does he still play for Auburn, or did he go pro?
I think he does.
I think he still plays for Auburn. He might just be a sophomore. We'll have to check and make sure it wasn't him that got the hole-in-one.
I hope not. Because I saw him getting interviewed. I'm like, oh, good for them.
All right, hey. Most influential athlete. By the way, Action Sports Jack Stuart Weber is here, if you didn't know. He welcomed in with the song.
Mancino had an 86 today.
Oh, my. That's pretty high. It was that tough.
Not great.
Wow.
He didn't get the hole-in-one either. But yeah.
86 and a hole-in-one, he probably wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah.
The most influential athletes. Here's the deal. I saw a tweet this week, and this is what got me thinking about it. And said, talking about the three-point shot and everything, and said Steph Curry is the most influential NBA basketball player of this generation. I was like, wait a minute. LeBron James?
Just because of the way he plays?
Because of the style. Like, everybody launches threes. And I was like, wait, all right. That's not true. I was like, that's not true, but wait a minute. Don't be so quick to answer that because everybody launches threes and everybody thinks they're layups now, and all you got to do is watch this tournament to see that they'll settle for a three rather than a 5-foot shot or taking it to the basket, going the free throw line. So it might not be far off. I mean, I'm not saying he created the three-point shot, but his proficiency to hit the three-point shot has made it very cool. So
let me ask you this, though. Same team, Kevin Durant. Being a big man that can shoot the three and is not really a power guy in the post, but more of a finesse player on top of the point?
Okay, fair enough. But how many people are 6'11"? I mean, Steph Curry, there's a ton of people that are 6'1".
Like I cover high school basketball games, and the shot selection I see from some of these kids, I'm just thinking to myself when I'm watching, I'm like, they're watching Steph Curry. The way that they're shooting the ball. And so it's trickling down to college, to high school, to these young kids that watch the game. And I'm like, there's the Steph Curry effect.
And I think, listen, here's the deal. You got to remember the context of this, what we're talking about. So I'm not saying he might be changing the game, right? The Dirk Nowitzkis, the Kevin Durants, there are guys like that. He could change the NBA game, change even the college basketball game. But what we're talking about now is influencing generations of kids, how they play the game. And again, you just don't have 6'11" guys. So
like go play a pickup game, and you'll go play against these kids who are in middle school and high school and can just drain threes for days, and it is the most infuriating thing to play against.
Well, people can
probably stop playing as middle school
you
kids.
You should probably stop.
Probably, yeah. Someone will want to call the cops on Coos.
No, but you played a pickup game at the Y or something like that. These kids want to jump in.
That makes more sense, but we're not going to playgrounds and playing with a bunch of toddlers.
I meant the Y. I didn't necessarily say I'm going to a school playground.
Okay.
The shorter rims are nice, though.
Careful.
Yeah, you're just out there dunking on.
I don't know, man. Whatever.
All right, so Tiger Woods creates a whole generation of players, right? Absolutely. No, undeniable.
Yeah.
He's created a whole generation that now is playing.
Yeah.
Okay,
but is it more of his style or his, because I don't think Tiger's style is that crazy compared to other golf. I mean, what sets Tiger apart from other golfers?
Well, he did he did three things. He's black.
Yes.
So that helped a minority population, and probably not to the degree many people thought it would, but it still has. He hit the long ball before anybody hit the long ball.
Okay.
Like, he hit it a different way. So when Tiger Woods was playing in 2000, 2001, he hit it 50 yards past everybody. He made it look so easy. Well, now you've got Rory and Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka and name your guy, Cameron Champ. I think everybody that hits it far. And now if you don't hit it 320, you can't play on the PGA Tour. And some of these guys are hitting it 360, 380. So it's crazy. Even Tiger's kind of in the middle of the pack at that now. But so that, and then the style, right?
Exactly.
I want Tiger shirts.
Yeah.
Right. I want to look like Tiger on the golf course.
You want to wear red on Sunday.
I want Nike. Right. He did that for 2 decades. They all look alike. Their swings kind of look alike. They want to hit it as far as they possibly can. Tiger influenced a generation. So you laughed at me when I texted this to you last night.
Thought it was a joke. Honestly, thought this was a joke.
So I put the show together and I said, hey, I'm going to on the list Tiger Woods, Steph Curry. And by the way, I still think that we can expand on this later, but Steph Curry thing is still very debatable. I mean, LeBron James, he has to leave a lasting legacy somewhere where he's more impactful than Steph Curry.
Is his legacy right now the mega teams, the grouping up with other guys to win titles?
But Brent, you talk about influence. How many 6'8" guys are there out there that are like 240 pounds that are freak athletes like LeBron James?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can't think of something. Yeah, I can't think of, like, he loves to pass and he's very good at passing, but I don't think people are sitting there on the playground saying, I want to be LeBron James and pass. So maybe Curry is the guy. I mean, the more and more we talk about it. Okay, so my other guy, I say to you, I said, who?
Phil Mickelson.
And so he's like, is this an April
Fool's
joke?
I thought I was getting punked, honestly. Like, I literally saw that and I'm like, is this a typo? I was not ready for that response.
Okay.
Is this a left-handers only discussion?
No, it's not an only discussion, but I played golf yesterday, right? And I'm a left-handed player. And Ty plays left-handed. And he played with 2 buddies, one a right-hander kid, and the other one's a left-handed player. So we had 3 left-handed players in our group. The group ahead of us had 2 players. One of them was a left-hander. We're on the second hole, and I'm watching a kid chip around with his buddy. He's left-handed. I saw 5 lefties out of 7 golfers in like a 2. And so, well, your arms are up in the air.
Oh, arms are going crazy.
I'm 41 years old, right? When I picked up the game of golf at like 12 or 13 years old, that my neighbor took me to play my first round of golf, and he had me play right-handed. And so what would that have been? 28 years ago, was that like 1990? Right? So he has me play right-handed. I was like, this is awful. I'm not doing it. I'm playing left-handed. So I go try, I play a little bit. My dad had some clubs, left-handed. He was lefty too. And I go to the, not like a Dick's Sporting Goods, that wasn't around, but there's a golf store down the road, a couple miles. And I would go in there and check out. They had 2 sets of golf clubs left-handed. 2. That's it. In 1990. I'm not talking about like half a century ago. And now you get any left-handed club you want. You go look on tour. There's lefties all over the place that are good golfers, like really good players. I'm telling you, Phil Mickelson proved that you can be good and be a pro and win at that level. And he influenced this whole next 30 years of left-handed players. Guys don't try to switch anymore. If you're left-handed, you don't switch to go play right-handed. You don't have to do that. And they did. That was the norm for a century in golf. And so from that standpoint, I think Phil Mickelson is just as influential on his sport.
Easy. Brent, there's no rap songs about Phil Mickelson. If a kid wants to be inspired by Phil Mickelson and go on TV, he's going to see him doing an arthritis commercial, as opposed to Tiger Woods, who has video games, who has Nike commercials. Don't ever put Phil Mickelson in the category of Curry, Tiger Woods, James Harden, and LeBron ever again.
I would have a hard time arguing for someone who's influencing 10% of the population.
Is that all lefties are, is 10%?
10%.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're in the minority there.
Is that it, really?
Yeah. You're weird.
I'm sure there's some kid out there that has like arthritis, and I'm sure it's a serious thing. He's like, well, if Phil Mickelson can play, I can play.
Maybe I can dance and have balls hit at me at the driving range.
But come on, don't put Phil Mickelson with the goats and influential. Come on.
He's super influential on the game. Who changed? Why are there so many more lefties then?
Just making people feel good about themselves. I'm sure. Like Phil Mickelson got nothing to do with it.
Somebody go find me how many professional golfers are left-handed now than there were in 1990. Somebody do that, please. I'll give you like $1. More to come. Next, ESPN 690.
It's Golick and Wingo.
Boston was a pit of misery outside of the Celtics for decades in terms of winning. Okay, you had the Celtics and you had everything else that was kind of a big bowl of crap. These sports fans in Boston, they really have no idea how good they have it, and I wonder what it's going to take for them to understand the embarrassment of riches that has come their way.
Golick and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Good morning, class. A quick head count. Tiffany.
Here.
Zach.
Yup.
Steven. Is he absent again?
For many kids, just getting to school feels like a challenge. Staying through graduation, even harder. That's where Communities in Schools comes in. We're inside schools every day, empowering at-risk kids by helping them overcome barriers that stand in the way of learning. Communities in Schools. We're in schools to help kids stay in school. See how we help all kids succeed at communitiesinschools.org.
Hi, this is Dave Barker, owner and client of IHRS. Do you have thinning or balding hair? Now the same technology doctors have used for years to restore cells and tissue growth can restore your hair, utilizing your own plasma and stem cells. PRP can slow or stop your hair loss and restore your thinning hair. Now the procedure is clinically proven safe and effective with no downtime. Call 904-777-IHRS. IHRS is the leader in hair restoration and offers a trademark procedure, NeoGraft hair transplant, the latest technology in hair restoration, laser treatments, and now PRP. This year, grow your hair back. Call 904-777-IHRS for your free evaluation and see the latest technology, PRP, right here in Jacksonville. Call 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477.
From Daytona Beach to Brunswick, now ESPN can be heard loud and clear everywhere on one of the most powerful AM radio stations in Florida. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. You're listening to Action Sports Jacks with our friend Brent Martineau on ESPN 690.
I'm still having a hard time fathoming.
Yeah,
this.
works.
How did I see 5 left-handed golfers in like literally within 100 yards of me yesterday? Yet there are only 10% or 7 to 10% of the world's population is left-handed.
Was there a left-handed tournament going on that you didn't know was right in front of you?
No, well, I wasn't playing in a tournament. I had 3 of them in my own group. So it's like hitting the lottery.
Just saying, Brent. You can't put them
lottery
up in
that you
category.
don't win anything for. But
Well, listen, I did not say.
Is that the hill that you're going to die on? Is this the hill that you're going to die on?
No, you're just interpretation. You're like Twitter right now. Yeah, you
Brent,
just heard.
what I read in the
you're
email.
just hearing it the way you want to hear it.
No,
I did not say
sir.
Phil Mickelson is as influential as Tiger Woods. I said he is influential, like Tiger Woods.
To 10% of the population.
I'll get the email right now.
So Stewart said 7. There's 7 PGA Tour players right now left-handed out of one. Out of the, we think it's like 150, or would it be 125 that get the cards? So
it would be 150 to 175, somewhere in there.
Yeah, okay.
125 keep them, and then another 50 come in. 25 from the regular season, 25 from the finals.
Yeah, okay. So you get the point. So right around that number. So. I mean, going back 30 years ago, there might have, I think, what did we say, Bob Charles? Was it Bob Charles? And then when Mickelson came on, that was about it.
This says 12% of golfers are left-handed. So I guess that's just the general public of golfers. I don't know where they came up with that number, but.
Well, that's interesting. Why would there be a higher number? Now, listen, Phil Mickelson actually is right-handed. He's a right-hand. His strong hand is his right hand. And actually,
so he just wanted to be different.
Oh, that's a trip then.
Well, no, pulling the club, like that's actually beneficial because you have a strong right hand.
Okay.
And pulling the club through,
this
it's
might actually explain
beneficial.
something for my golf game. I might.
Now it's all starting to make sense.
I might have to go swing a left-handed club and check some things out
Well,
here.
in that case, then Phil Mickelson's a big influence on you, Stuart.
Well, I don't know, but my short game sucks.
I was going to say, we know yours for the right hand.
At the Iceman game.
By the way,
why did I turn back around left-handed?
Why were we swinging golf clubs? Like, we literally go to the Iceman game and like, okay, I couldn't skate with the team. I was bummed. I'm like, at least I can maybe like play like a hockey game where they give us a stick and we can knock some plates down or something. And they literally give us golf clubs and the pool and tell us to go have fun. I'm like,
I was confused by that too.
I mean, no offense to Jax
It's
Weissman.
a little game they play. I mean, how many games can you play on ice?
I mean, the one where you put a puck into the net?
Yeah, that would have been ideal.
You just had 2 fans try and put a puck in the net? I mean.
I want to, and I don't think they I think I've asked them before. I don't think they legally can do it anymore. I've always wanted to do the slingshot one where you slingshot.
Now we're talking.
Now that would have been awesome.
Now we're talking.
But apparently, I think there's like an injury risk, so I don't think they do that.
No way.
Brent, I also have a question as well. So, Brent, I'm not sure if you noticed in between intermissions, but they have a kid on skates that goes out there as fast as he can and pulls the nets out for the Zamboni.
Yeah.
Brent, give me that job for the playoff game. I want it.
I could do it.
Yeah, I'm
Could
serious.
you do it without falling?
Yeah, guaranteed.
I bet we can make that happen.
Yeah, and I'll even wear my
Here's the thing,
ESPN 690
it's the
Iceman
playoffs,
shirt.
so you got to take the best of the best when it comes to grabbing the goals.
I don't want to toot my own horn or anything like that, but in terms of skating purposes, I am fast.
We're going to do it.
Can we do it?
Let's call
Let's do it.
the Iceman and see if we can make it happen.
Let's do it.
You want another job?
Yep.
Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, Stuart Weber, Coos, here on a Monday or any day in Jacksonville. Hope you're listening. We'll have our Blake Bortles conversation in its entirety coming up at 5 o'clock right here on ESPN 690. You won't hear it anywhere else, I can guarantee it, because, we were the only ones there in Oviedo on Saturday morning sitting down with Blake Bortles and catching up about all things Blake, including his time with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got to sneak in, though, because that's a little bit on the lengthier side. We have to sneak in Ballin' and Fallin' here on a Monday, and I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to try not to steal yours.
I think you're going to.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I am going to go with Bryce Harper. I've told you I've done a 180 on Harper. Harper, I was giving him a hard. I didn't like the scene the other, right? The changing from. It's not Harper. I like Harper. I like him as a ball player. But I didn't. That kind of left a funny taste in my mouth. That like then leaving the Nats and now you go to Philly and you're a hero, and the Nats tried to make a play for you, and then by the way, he goes back to Washington this week, and I think he's going to like send a tweet or something on social media thanking the fans. Why hasn't he already done that? Like, why didn't he do that before?
And maybe he did. Maybe he
I don't think he did.
bought like a section in the paper or something.
No,
No,
that's
nothing,
what I'm saying. I don't think he did that. He should have done that before, once he knew he was leaving, in my opinion. I mean, I like seeing that stuff. Maybe it doesn't mean much to the players, but I would think his PR folks would have had him do that already. and they didn't.
As a Braves fan, I didn't like him with the Nets, and now I don't like him with the Phillies.
Fair
And
enough.
it might
He's
be
gonna
worse with the
punish us
Phillies
for another 10 years.
Well, I listened to it last night.
Absolutely toast. Number 1 is in the books. Crushed Bryce Harper. Oh, my goodness.
That was his first one in the Phillies uniform a couple of days ago, and Kuz says he took both of them in. So why not? Let's hear the crack of the bat one more time. This one's last night.
It's an understatement. Oh, my goodness. Number 2 for Bryce Harper as a Philly. And he is not going to give up that Nick Williams bat ever.
That was Sunday Night Baseball. I said to Ty, we were actually watching that game. I was like, don't you want to just feel what that feels like one time? Like to hit it to the moon? I mean, the first one was like 465 feet. I don't think yesterday's was as deep, but just this no-doubter. It would be like, just give me that feeling once.
No better sound than that Phillies bell ringing when they hit a home
it's
run.
a great sound, Goose.
All right, cool.
Wait, ready? Hey. There it is. There it is right
You know,
there.
it is a better sound, a happy hour horn.
Yeah, that is. Only team to sweep in the opening series.
The Braves?
So Braves got swept,
Yeah,
by Phillies.
I
Although
saw that.
technically, Seattle swept that first 2-game series in Japan, but they're not.
It's
They're
a
not counting.
technicality,
They're not
though,
counting
yeah.
that one for some reason when they're saying the Braves are the only ones who have been swept.
Well, I'm going to do my ball on here. And listen, I could bring out the Christian Yelich highlights, but we only have an hour left in the show, and we don't have that much time. But let's just be honest here. 4 games, 4 home runs, and a recent walk-off double to beat the St. Louis Cardinals, who I'm calling bums again because, listen, that guy wanted to fight me at Sawgrass, so I hope he's listening once again. I have not forgotten, sir.
No, you haven't. You reference it every freaking day on the show.
I'm going to do it, Brett. It's my it's my segment, portion of the segment. I'm going to say what I want. Christian Yelich is picking up right where he left off, obviously, from last year, which is a good sign for the Brewers. I don't want to say Christian Yelich was disrespected this offseason, but being a plus 1,800 NL MVP betting favorite kind of shows that he was a little disrespected. He was behind Harper, Arenado, Bryant, and Goldschmidt, and Machado. So I'm taking that as a form of disrespect.
Yeah.
Shout out to
it's tough to go back-to-back, but he's an awesome player.
No, it is. I mean, the last guy to do that was Albert Pujols back in 2009, I believe.
Look at you. Nice pull,
Well,
by the way. Who played for the Cardinals?
It's the Cardinals. That's why
Cardinals
I know
are
that.
losing right now in the ninth, 5-4, so they got that for you. That's good news for you.
Lovely.
Yelich has never been hotter.
My phone.
Former son.
Former son.
Yep.
My phone is simply, it's over for LeBron James and the Lakers. What a miserable year. He's out for the rest of the season. They're just shutting him down.
My phone is Eddie Alvarez from one championship, fought in the UFC for a long time, just signed supposedly an 8-figure contract with ONE FC. He was a 900 favorite this past weekend in a fight, got knocked out in the first round. He was kind of their bell cow, the face of that company, and unfortunately didn't come through. That's why MMA is one of the craziest sports around, folks.
Wow. Wish I had money on as an opponent.
Right. Well, and the greatest thing, too, is we actually beat Justin Gaethje 2 fights ago. And Justin Gaethje's the next big thing now, as you saw on ESPN.
Hey, the next big thing on ESPN 690, our interview in its entirety with Blake Bortles. It's coming up right after this.
See, very intrigued by the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Is an unhappy Thon Maker the answer? 53% of the audience said yes.
Thon Maker is going to excite anybody who hasn't seen Thon Maker play, correct? Like, that guy walks into the room.
How'd we get him?
Yeah, wait a minute. That guy's great. I would draft him first overall every time.
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
The weather's heating up, which means it's the perfect time to get that next job done. At AutoZone, we have the free services you need to do it right. With our free AutoZone Loan-A-Tool program, you can choose from over 100 specialty tools, borrow the one you need, and get the job done right, so you don't spend money on tools you won't use again. We'll even give you instructions on how to use them. Getting the job done just got easier. Let us help you at more than 5,600 locations nationwide. Deposit required. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. If you own a pair of Skechers, this ad is not for you because you already know they're the most comfortable shoes on the planet. This ad is for those who have never tried Skechers, for the few who have never experienced the otherworldly comfort of Skechers air-cooled memory foam, never floated across the ground on comfort pods, or experienced Skechers seamless knits. You're missing out. That's like never petting a puppy. So we've made this ad for you. Skechers. Live comfortably. Available at a Skechers store near you or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau. If you've received a letter from the IRS and cannot pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank accounts and garnish your wages. If this is you, contact J. David Tax Law, a local firm right here in Jacksonville. Recently voted the best tax attorney in Jacksonville by Folio Weekly readers and selected as an ultimate tax attorney by the Jacksonville Business Journal. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation. They explain exactly your options and how they'll resolve your tax issue. Only trust an experienced and award-winning tax firm to represent you. The fastest way to get started is to call 904-507-4777. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away, also online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. Only trust an experienced and award-winning tax firm to represent you by calling this number again, 904-507-4777, or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Kentucky has offered basketball coach John Calipari a lifetime contract. Would be a combination of a head coaching extension and a paid role as an ambassador following his retirement. The Athletic reported Calipari had been in contact with UCLA about its head coaching position and had been offered 6 years, $48 million. Calipari, the highest paid basketball coach in the country, $9.2 million total compensation this year. The 8 NFL teams with new head coaches can begin off-season workouts this week or next. The Browns and first-year coach Freddie Kitchens opting to do that today. Plenty of attention on Cleveland after the off-season additions, including Odell Beckham Jr. The Browns, though, do have a lot of work ahead, says Kitchens.
We want to create that environment for our players. And whenever we do that, we will have something. Right now, we're just a bunch of good individual players. All right? Yeah, our roster looks great on paper. Whoop-de-hell. All right? But at the end of the day, we better be a good team, and you start building that during this time of the year.
Cleveland traded defensive lineman Emmanuel Agba to the Chiefs for safety Eric Murray.
Discover Card alerts you if they find your Social Security number on any one of thousands of risky websites. It's free for card members. Just sign up online at discover.com/free alerts. Limitations apply.
Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30, Action Sports Jax.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
What's the magic whiteboard say?
Rick Astley is making bank today. Everyone's getting Rick rolled. Never gonna live. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and hurt you. Can I just say, by the way, is there a boss Nick responsible for this intro right here?
I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna need to get the MP3 of this because this just became my new text tone. Not ringtone, my text tone. Every time I get a text message, yeah, of course it's a text tone. Yeah,
that's good.
So every time I get a text message now, this is gonna be playing. Can't wait. Can you set it up for me? Well, no, that too. Yeah.
That's the ringtone.
That's the ringtone. That's the ringtone. No, I'm saying the intro for the show. Like when it says Brent Martineau, Austin Lane. I want that for my text tone. Make it happen,
I'm glad that I'm a part of your text tone now.
Yeah, it's all good, man. We're a team, right?
That's good.
We're a team.
I like that a lot. By the way, remember when we were talking about the Oscar or Emmy or whatever winning actresses?
It seems so long ago.
Glenn Close.
Yep.
It's the other one, and several people told us, but I forgot to share. Susan Lucci was the other one.
Oh, okay.
Soap star.
You were close then, Susan Sarandon, Susan Lucci.
Yeah, I was on to something.
Yeah, you were there. You were there.
Hey, over the weekend, we were on to the Blake Bortles sit-down interview, and think about Blake talked to some of the folks out in L.A., I think their own website, the Rams, and I saw some quotes in another article when he signed with the Rams, but not a lot in depth in terms of what happened in Jacksonville. We really haven't heard from Blake since the end of the football season when we pretty much knew it was over. And Blake had a foundation event in Oviedo in his hometown at his former high school this weekend. We got a chance to sit down with him. He was fantastic. Gave us a lot of time, and I think gave us a lot of insight on what happened here in Jacksonville, what's next for him. And we did talk a little bit about the foundation and being a dad as well. The interview is pretty lengthy, so sit back and listen in. It begins with the community stuff. And remember, he was a Walter Payton nominee this year, Man of the Year in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he was a part of all the festivities, and partly to do with his foundation and what he does for first responders and what he does for people with challenges. And he does a fantastic job off the field. So we talked about that at first and then got to the football stuff a little bit later.
Yeah, it was definitely special to kind of, I mean, that was one of the cooler things that I've ever been a part of and nominated for in my life, to do that and have people recognize and appreciate the difference that, all 32 of the nominees and so many more guys across the league are trying to make in the communities that they play in or that they're from, and was cool. And the fact that all of us do this and nobody ever expects to be nominated or be shown any sort of appreciation for that. I think, I'm speaking on behalf of everybody when we all do it, because it's stuff we really care about and are passionate about, and have a platform to make a difference and want to do so. So it was pretty cool to be a part of that and be in that group of 32 men.
You've been hammered at times.
Yeah.
Was it nice to kind of put what you do in perspective and take the football aside of it and all the criticism, but actually be applauded for the bigger picture, the platform that you get to use and help people out?
Right. No, totally. I mean, and I've never had a problem with, if you're going to criticize me on how I am as a football player, I get that. There's people that there's jobs is to talk about how we play as players, and I've never had a problem with that. But I think, like you talked about, it kind of changes the perspective and the lens of it all when you're able to come out here and do this and hold a youth camp on, the football field that I grew up playing on. Really kind of puts it all into perspective and kind of, I think, just sets the priorities and what's important in life.
Is there a responsibility for you here? Because I was talking to your dad and I said, is there another NFL guy comes from Oviedo High School? I know Haggerty now exists too, and Jeff Driscoll's from over there, but do you feel a sense of responsibility as someone that these kids can look up to, and your name's going to always be associated with this place?
I think, I guess I could just hope for, growing up, all I wanted to do was play at the next level. I wanted to be, as a kid coming and watching Friday night games here, I wanted to be the quarterback on a Friday night, and then I started doing that, and it was like, wow, now I really want to play on Saturdays. I want to be a college football player. And then that kind of, transition, and wow, I'm going to have a chance to play in the NFL. And, I hope that, whether I've carved the path or whatever you want to say, I can be a guy that kids can look up to and say he went through the same programs that we went through, he lived in the same place, he went to the same school, he sat in the same classrooms, and he made it to the NFL. So hopefully give kids the hope that it's possible and they can do it as well.
That being said, I also feel like there's a sense you come home and there's an appreciation for Blake Bortles. I mean, I know sometimes in Jacksonville that's not always the case from a football, or in the world you live in, it's not always the case, but is there almost a sense of comfort here that people they know Blake Bortles and they think Blake Bortles is cool regardless of stats or what anybody else is talking about?
Right, yeah, this will always be home, and there's so many people, and that was because you kind of get in the fishbowl, right? Living in Jacksonville, you get in the fishbowl of, everybody thinks I suck, everybody hates me, everybody this, everybody that, and be able to come here and hang out with everybody and see so many people that were, huge parts of my life growing up and mentors to me, and you see that they don't care how you are as a football player. Like you said, they know who I am as a person, and that's the person that they care about. And anything else, football-wise or sports career-wise, is kind of just extra, good or bad. It's part of it.
Now, you're right. You live in a fishbowl, but the other part of that is not everybody thinks you suck in Jacksonville. You got a lot of love when this whole thing ended. How much did it mean to you to get all the feedback that you got and people that appreciated what you did off the field and on the field too in your 5 years in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like you said, when you're in it, right, and you hear a couple people say a couple things, and all of a sudden you think that's the opinion of everybody. And like you said, that wasn't the case. You know, Jacksonville was my home for 5 years. Dave and Shad and Gus gave me an opportunity to fulfill my dream, 5 years ago. And, I couldn't be more thankful to them and the organization and the city. I mean, I loved living there. Like we just talked about, I'll keep my house there, for a while at least, and be back all the time. So I've made a lot of friends, both in and around the Jags organization and outside of it, that are people that just live in Jacksonville. So it's definitely a place I'll always call home, and had a big part, in my life.
You're a competitive guy, prideful guy. You've rebounded. You're now with the LA Rams. Did that help ease some of the whatever that you were feeling about the thing ending in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it did, and it felt, I think I was jobless for like 5 days, and it felt like a year and a half. So obviously my first time ever going through free agency and having to deal with that and being released and having to find a new home. And I couldn't be more happy to be with the Rams. An unbelievable organization, and spending time with Sean McVay and being around their facility and talking to the coaches. I'm fired up about it. It's a start. It's a new start. It's a new chapter, and I'm really looking forward to it.
How much can he help you? Because he's known as not really a quarterback whisperer, but an innovative offensive guy, knows the position well. He's obviously helped Jared quite a bit, you can tell. So, I mean, how much are you looking forward to that? How much do you think he can advance your game as an NFL player?
Yeah, he was a huge part of the reason on why that was where I chose to go and sign with them. I think kind of just from an outside perspective looking in on it, you see the coaches that have come from under him that have kind of been plucked now throughout the league to go be OCs or head coaches elsewhere. And it was kind of, I want to be around that. Like you said, everybody's kind of raved about, how smart he is offensively and the way he runs his team and how impressive it is for him to be able to do that at such a young age. And it was, for me, it was how can I get around that? How can I learn from that? How can, I better myself, for the long run down the road for my career?
I feel like you like that. You related well to Nathaniel Hackett, a younger guy. You're a guy's guy in the locker room, but does it almost help that McVay's 32 years old and they've got a young staff on the offensive side, and do you almost feel more comfortable in that situation?
Yeah, I think anybody's probably like that. Like, it's easier to relate to guys that are closer to you in your age. It makes it easier. They kind of have experienced the same things in life. They kind of do similar stuff. So being around Hackett for me was incredible. I owe him a ton. How much I learned from him, and kind of in moving to LA and being with McVay now, it's how can I further that learning and continue to get better and kind of be better in all assets of playing quarterback.
I was thinking Washington, looking at their situation, thinking of Miami, looking at their situation. Like, yeah, that could be a couple landing spots for you as a starting quarterback again, potentially. Do you almost need this to kind of get a backseat view, if you will? Everybody loves the backup quarterback, you know that. So do you almost need that, take a breath from what's been a rat race in a sense in the last 5 years?
Yeah, it was, it was a different decision kind of to go through this whole thing. And like you said, there were some places where I could have maybe showed up as a starter or played or had a better likelihood of playing this year than go into LA, but it was kind of what can we do to set ourselves up for that next opportunity to be the starting quarterback in the NFL again. Let's not rush into a place in a bad situation and blow that opportunity. Let's be patient about it and get, go to the Rams, and whether it's a year, 5 years, 10 years, however long, I can spend there and be around those guys and learn, and then hopefully get that opportunity to go play in this league again.
We heard rumors of even like a New England or a play. I mean, you hear all sorts of rumors during free agency. Did you have offers? Did you have some opportunities to kind of pick your spot, or was it, hey, this is? You just talked about the Rams situation, but was that kind of like, well, this is our chance, let's take it?
Yeah, no, there was a couple options. I was supposed to fly to a bunch of different places the week that I ended up signing with the Rams, and they were actually the first visit. And before going on any visits, kind of just thinking about it, that was where I wanted to be. It was where I thought the best decision for me to be was. And then after going there and spending a day with them and being around everybody, it kind of just solidified that. And I just shut it down and called everybody and say, hey, thanks for the interest. I'm going to sign with the Rams.
That's pretty good. You're due $6.5 million from the Jags no matter what. Was there a part of you that said, hey, sign me for $1 and make those guys pay the rest?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about just not playing next year and going to all the home Jags games, sitting in the crowd. No,
you can be the guy that heckles someone.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, wearing my big Brandon Linder jersey. in the crowd. But no, I mean, all that. I have no idea how that stuff works. I asked somebody the other day, like, so do they pay the Rams and then the Rams pay me, or do I get? I don't know how any of that works. So, I mean, I'm unbelievably fortunate to be able to play the game I love and get paid to do it. So, whoever pays that money, I appreciate it.
Listen, you're kind of a young guy still, competitive guy. I know there's a part of you that feels you were a bit of the scapegoat here, and I think your support system would probably feel the same way. From what you did in the AFC Championship game to 3-1 start, and then everything breaking around you. Is there a part of you that's just like you just, are you mad at the Jags a little bit? Like,
no,
guys, this wasn't all my fault, right, type of thing. Is there any part of you like
I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, like you said, we went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, and you know, being a play away from winning the AFC Championship game to having a really good start, and then kind of the wheels falling off and us not being able to get out of the slump. And you know, as a quarterback, you kind of, you know, head coach, offense coordinator, quarterback, like those are really the three guys that get blamed when you don't win, right? Because you got to win in this league, and you can only lose for so long until you're replaced and they find somebody else to do it. So I totally understand that. I think anybody that plays quarterback understands that, and it comes with kind of the job. You get more credit than you deserve, and you get more blame than you deserve, and it's part of it. And you know, I'm super appreciative and loved every minute of being in Jacksonville. Obviously, wish it would have turned out different, and you know, we would have had a better year last year, and I would have loved to, you know, played my whole career there, but it's part of it, and I totally understand that.
Tom Coughlin said recently, Dave Caldwell said recently, listen, we don't regret the extension last year at all. He earned it coming off that 2017 year. I would imagine there are probably still mixed reviews on trying to keep you, and do you think it was just a change of scenery thing, or they had to kind of win now and say we need to do something else?
Right. You know, I think you're always in the win now mindset. Everybody wants to win a Super Bowl this year. That's the goal. You start every season, all 32 teams have the same goal of being the one team that brings that trophy home, and we certainly did, and had high expectations in our building, you know, following that you know, 2017 season and AFC Championship loss, and then for us to go out there and start the way we did and then finish the way we did, you know, it was tough. It was a lot of adversity. There was a lot of things that went wrong, and there's so much of that. I think anybody would tell you, you need a couple breaks to have a good NFL season. You need guys to stay healthy. You need to get lucky a little bit and have some things go your way, and we just didn't, you know, and that's part of it. And you know, by no means did I play at a high enough level. So, you know, like I said, I get the fact that they had to make a change. They got to set themselves up to win football games and have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
I'm not going to lie to you, I died on the Blake Bortles hill for a while there, and one of the last ones standing, but it does come at you fast, right? 2017 AFC Championship game, 5 minutes away, playing really good ball the first month of the year, 3-1, two maybe your best games, Patriots and Jets.
Right.
Looked like Blake Bortles starting to take off, and then Kansas City, and a month later you're benched.
Yeah. Yeah, it came fast, but you know, that's part of it. I knew, you know, I had been benched a couple times in my tenure in Jacksonville, and knew that was part of it, and that I was no different than anybody else. And if I wasn't performing, they were going to put somebody else out there and give them a chance, regardless of if, you know, I was on a rookie deal or if I had signed an extension, or whatever it may be. So it turned fast. And you know, I'd love to be able to go back and try anything I could to change it, but it's part of it, and I think, you know, everybody that was involved in it, you know, it'll make us all better. I think, you know, it'll for sure make me better down the long run, and I'll be able to look back hopefully in 10, 12 years and say, you know, that helped, you know, develop me as a person and as a player.
When did you know it was done?
I mean, I always, after when I got benched the second time, I guess, it was kind of, I knew, you know, and never really hit until, you know, Dave called me and said, hey, you know, we're going to sign Foles and let you go, was kind of, you know, when it hit home and sunk in. And I mean, there was a couple-hour period there where, you know, it was kind of a pity party, feeling bad for myself, and, you know, talking to my parents and brother and agent, and I was like, we'll get out of this, and, you know, this won't be the moment that defines my career, my life, and like I said, it'll be something to look back on and say, you know, it was a stepping stone, or, you know, an up and down on the roller coaster that was part of the journey. So it's all part of it.
That was a few days before they signed Foles, right?
Yeah. Hey, well, I think Wednesday. Free agency opened on Wednesday, I think.
Yeah.
I think Dave called me Tuesday, which I was obviously super appreciative of him calling me, letting me know, and then obviously releasing me so I have an opportunity to go get on somewhere else. So I was thankful that they allowed me to do that.
Your support staff, mom and dad, a lot of other people, they hear it all, right? You're kind of in that insulation. It's usually harder on everybody else.
Yeah.
It's almost good for everybody. The Blake Bortles camp to kind of have something different now and maybe get away from that for a bit.
Right. I think so, definitely. I think obviously the change in position, right? I'm not going to LA to be the starting quarterback. I'm out of Florida. I'm further away, right? There's not going to be a whole lot of people that care about me in Hollywood as the backup quarterback for the Rams. So it'll be totally different. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure my mom's looking forward to not having to read bad stuff about her son, even though she won't listen to me when I tell her to stop reading it. So I think it'll be good for everybody.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about it. She doesn't have quite the thick skin that
She's not supposed to, though.
No, exactly. She's a mom.
Well, you're learning that with dad stuff. I heard something today when you walked in here. I told you this. I don't think I'd ever hear. You said, "Hold on, I have to change a diaper."
Yeah. Well, Remy didn't get her morning dump in. We had to leave early, so when we made it all the way down here, and it was time for a diaper change. So
how's dad life?
It's awesome. She's incredible. It'll be a challenge to go to California and be that far away from her, but figure out ways to see her as much as possible.
Does it change you? Mature you? All those things that
I think,
cliche?
and having her around, I mean, she's only 15 months old, but having her around this past year and going through all that, it was awesome because that was something that my parents love me, right? And going home to them, they watch the game. They know football. They know sports. And, my dad will tell me I didn't play good at the drop of a hat. So there was a lot of that going on there. To be able to see her and have her have no idea what I was doing, how I'd play, who cared if I played good or bad, it was awesome. And kind of, like so many of these things do, put it all in perspective.
Yeah, it's cliche, but it really, you've heard guys say that before, right?
Yeah, and you never understand it until you have that, because when I didn't have a daughter and it was just me, it was kind of, it's all you could think about. It was all I ever cared about was football and how can we win and how can I play better, and that's still all you think about, but at the same time it's kind of a breath of fresh air to kind of have somebody that's around and loves you regardless of how you play the game.
We want to wrap up so you can get back to the kids, but let me ask you a tougher question about your 5 years. With that being said, there have been narratives out there. Did you party too much? Did you not work hard enough in the off season? Right. Did you do any of those things that that might be true or not up to your standard or that you learned from? What do you look back on it and say, well, I could have, should have, would have?
Yeah, I would say, the only thing I would change would have been early on. I didn't know. We went out and drank all the time in college, and then I moved 2 hours north and was 21 years old, and it was like, why would I change? That took 2 years or so, maybe a year and a half, probably a little longer than it should have. But that would be the only thing I'd change. I've always, thought of myself as someone that worked extremely hard in the off season and put a lot of time in. It kind of perfected my craft. But I would say that narrative got written early on in my career when I was young, and deservingly so. I was at the bar often. The last 2 or 3 years, I probably went to the bars less than 10 times. It was special occasions for friends' birthdays or whatever. That was kind of a growing, pain that I had to go through. But it was definitely something that kind of stuck with me from what I did early on.
Interesting. Dave Caldwell said recently he regrets playing you your first year because I think the plan was to sit, learn the game, all those things. Do you agree with him?
I think, I've always thought there's good cases and bad cases of both, right? There's Aaron Rodgers, and then there's guys that played early that did great, and there's guys that did both that, did poorly as well. So I think it's part of it. I wouldn't have changed. I thought I learned a ton my rookie year. I didn't think it hurt me or, prohibited me from growing or getting better. I was able to kind of, take the blows and roll with it and learn, as I was going through it. I was super lucky to have Chad Henne with me for 4 years and learned a lot from him and spending time with him. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world. That's obviously something I'm sure, a regret of his that he probably thinks, would have helped my career, and I appreciate that. But I enjoyed playing my first year. I enjoyed kind of learning from the experience and being thrown into the fire early.
All right, let's get the dirt. How much of a mess was that locker room last year when it all started going bad?
It was tough. When you lose, what did we lose, 8, 9 in a row?
Yeah.
I don't know any locker room in any professional sport in the world that would be okay with that. There's going to be issues. There's going to be guys that say stuff, and that's part of it. And I don't think anybody in that locker room did anything or said anything maliciously or ill-intended. It was frustrations of us not playing as good as we thought we could play and being as good as we should have been, and it's part of it. I mean, I was as frustrated as anybody in that place, and guys handle things differently.
Your shock value when Hackett got fired?
That was big. You know, I didn't think that would happen. I thought, you know, maybe I would get benched or they would fire, right, which is kind of an odd move. But I don't know if I understand that one. But I guess that was different. You know, we had been together for 4 years, and you know, I owe him a ton. He taught me a ton, and to watch him get fired, you know, without any inclination of that coming, you know, I knew I wasn't playing good at the time. I thought there was a chance that I got benched, but for him to get fired, I thought was that was surprising for sure.
If Nick Foles is going to succeed in Jacksonville, 2019 beyond, what do you think he needs? What would you craft on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievably talented football team, and if everybody's healthy, that's all you need. I mean, they got everybody there, and I think that's any problem in the NFL. When you get beat up with injuries, it's hard to win football games in the league. So, I mean, he's an unbelievable football player. I wish him nothing but the best. And there's a ton of guys that are lifelong friends of mine that are still in that locker room and playing for that team. So, you know, I hope, you know, more than anything, they can stay healthy and have a good year, and Nick does well.
Lastly, will you stay tied to Jacksonville? I know you're going to keep the house for a bit, but the foundation. You know, once this all clears out, and 10 years from now, will Blake Bortles still be going back to Jacksonville as the guy that built a bit of a foundation?
Right. You know, I don't know. We're not going to do the golf tournament there this year. They're still going to do the POW camp. Unfortunately, I can't be there. I'll be in LA, but I think as far as the football camp, you know, I don't think we have plans to stop that. That's something that's really cool that we've partnered with POW and been able to do that. And it's been awesome. And I don't know, you know, maybe we move the golf tournament down here to Oviedo and do it down here around the same time as this. So it's all kind of stuff we'll figure out. You know, I have zero negative feelings towards Jacksonville. That's definitely will still be home for a while.
Can an Oviedo guy make it in LA?
I don't know. I guess the good thing is, like, we're north of LA, like we're out of there a little bit. The traffic and there's a lot going on out there.
Good luck, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for everything.
Blake Bortles from Saturday Morning, uncut, and I'm telling you, that was literally uncut. Didn't make one edit in that interview. That was everything. And awesome for Blake to at least give us the time and the amount of time. You know, a lot of times you do some of these things, and this is not a knock on anybody. I mean, if you're around some, you know, media relations people or somebody else, if he has a handler, they would be like, well, okay, 2 more questions or something. I mean, really, the only thing, Blake had to get back to the kids. I mean, we took a half hour out of his time.
Those poor kids, Brent.
Yeah,
shame on you.
To get back to the kids, but he really was not like, all right, is this thing almost over? You know, he was very gracious with his time. And, you know, a couple of things out of that interview, we've talked a lot about it, but a couple more things from it that might take away. One, I will go back to what I said before. I was surprised he gave us as much as he did when it came to the beach bar stuff. And I thought his answer was about as honest as you could get. And he regretted that, and he said it was even deserved in terms of the label that he got, but it was a label that took place in a year and a half, and in the final 3 years, he basically said he went to the bar about 10 times combined in his last 3 years in Jacksonville. So I thought that insight on that background, that label and narrative of what he talked about, he is really still, I think, to this day, more than, I don't know about more than, but maybe just as much about his departure in Jacksonville and the disappointment it didn't work out is the Nathaniel Hackett stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was close to Hackett, and you could tell in the interview he was surprised, and he was doing his best to probably not say exactly what he felt in that situation. I did talk to him a little bit more about it after, and he remains real close with Hackett, and he was just still surprised at how that all went down. And where that might have come from inside the organization. And then the one other thing I thought was interesting about that is he said, Foles, first of all, I didn't think about this until I watched it back and we were editing it for TV. But, I mean, Blake Bortles is really such a cool enough guy that I didn't – again, this was just a question I asked. But in hindsight, I'm like, You even asked him about the guy stealing his job,
Yeah,
which I'm not sure a lot of guys would have answered or may have looked at me a little squirrely doing. And I didn't really think much about it at the time, but then in the editing booth, I was like, man, maybe I probably should. I'm not sure if I should have. It's kind of raw still. It's still kind of new still. This isn't like 3 years later. But either way, he answered it. And what he said was, and I disagree with him here, but he says there's enough talent to win on that offensive side. And this is the one excuse if you're a Bortles defender to say, was there enough talent the entire time he was here, especially this past year? And do they have enough right now? And the bottom line to me is they don't have enough right now. They don't have a playmaker at tight end. We have to see if they have a playmaker on the receiving end. And we have to find out. I think there's talent in the backfield with Fournette, but can he play to his capabilities? So I would disagree with him on that end of it. I think Blake thought they could win if they were healthy last year is what come out of it. But anyway, Blake Bortles pretty much uncut. It was uncut. About 20 minutes of Blake talking about Jags and the Rams, and he made a smart decision. Him and his representation made a very smart decision. We talked about it a lot. Should you go to Washington? Should you go to Miami? Should you go to one of those places, fight for an opportunity to start in a not-so-great situation, or should you just take a breath, sit back, learn a little bit? And hats off to his agent and him for making what I think is the wise decision. I think this will benefit Blake Bortles in the long run, him going to L.A. and taking a back seat to Jared Goff.
Without a doubt, you're playing in a system that's quarterback-friendly. You're learning from a coach who seems to get the most out of his quarterbacks. And also, you're just taking some time off, not having to be the guy, and just really just sitting back and learning the game again. And that's paid off well for a lot of veterans in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how Blake Bortles does as a backup, but then also when his name gets called again, whether it's with the Rams due to an injury or whatnot, or else another free agent signing down the road.
And what he does with it. Still a very young quarterback who has a lot of experience now in the NFL. Wish Blake the best out in L.A. If the beauty of what we do, you get to see it on CBS 47 and Fox 30 over the weekend. You got to hear more of it today on ESPN 690. It's on all the digital platforms as well. So make sure you take a listen on ESPN690.com, on ActionNewsJax.com, ActionSportsJax.com. The list goes on and on, but you can find the Blake Bortles interview if you just caught the end of it somewhere. It's out there, I promise. More to come next on ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
Happy Monday. I'm Jake Mitchell. The Final Four is set with the finalists ready to meet this weekend in Minneapolis. Michigan State and Texas Tech will square off first, and then Virginia and Auburn will battle after that. Here's Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl.
It's an honor to even be on the floor with those programs. And then when you play, your kids play hard and play unselfishly and play together, obviously they're the Cinderellas of this tournament. And that's what makes March so special. Which team is it going to be?
If you completed a bracket on ESPN690.com, be sure to check it and see that yours truly is leading. The Jacksonville Icemen have clinched a spot in the Kelly Cup playoffs. They had to have some help, and they had to win some games. Both things happened, and now the playoffs are coming to Jacksonville. Stay connected with ESPN 690 while you're at work by listening on ESPN690.com.
Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, presented by Community First, returns this week. Opening weekend is this Thursday through Monday. Don't miss opening day, presented by Firehouse Subs and Rimrock Devlin, with free magnet schedules courtesy of Crawford Electric. And postgame fireworks. Tickets start at $5. Call 358-2846 or jackshrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball. Affordable family fun.
And as much as people are probably sweating the idea of Duke going out, what's still alive? Duke, North Carolina, meeting in the championship game for the first time ever in an NCAA tournament. Oh, gobble, gobble, gobble.
Golic and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 690.
Brent Martineau.
You see him every day on CBS 47, Fox 30. Action Sports Jax.
Austin Lane.
He's a former Jag star and current MMA fighter.
Broadcasting live from the Anajar and Levine studio. This is Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
This guy's classic. First Jags Foles fan club member just tweets in, Brent, let Blake go. You're not doing him any favors with the interview, and General Jack fans don't care about him anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Interview one of the new guys instead.
Well, in that case, then I'll see you guys later, because I haven't been relevant in a Jaguars uniform in, I don't know, since 2013. So, deuces, everybody.
Yeah, see ya.
Coos, come on. Take my spot, man.
That's funny.
Haters.
Come on now. Settle down. It is like the first time we've really heard from him since the end of the season. I'll defend that part of it, okay, buddy?
It's the off season, man. Like, what else do you want us to talk about? Like, we talked about the tournament. You want us to talk baseball for 3 hours? We can do that too, man. Like,
hey,
let's go.
One other note on it, actually, so I won't let it go. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this. My view of it is I don't think, and by the way, this has been my view on Blake for a lot of times, and maybe Nick Foles will be just like, to be interesting to see as we weigh guys, because we've had players in the past, like David Garrard was like this, I think, and Gabbert really wasn't. So I think you get a mixed match of it. But I don't know if there's many quarterbacks that would sit there and do that in the NFL. It's such a, like, think about the NFL, and not just this interview, by the way.
Being an open book, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
and just that interview, but I'm talking through the times of, whether some of the interviews that Blake did, and I mean, everybody else is so reserved, it feels like. If the names of the quarterbacks that come to mind, now listen, they'll go sit down with ESPN or on a Monday Night Football or a Sunday Night Football and those kind of things, but first of all, I mean, it's not like Blake asked to do this. I mean, we asked him to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I was thinking of that setting we were in, and I'm just like, well, I don't know. Maybe they all do it, but given the circumstances, given how at times he was perceived around the country in the NFL, here in Jacksonville, I don't know. I think that's what makes him different, too. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether that impacts how he plays a position or not, I think all those things are debatable. But the bottom line is he's unique in that sense, I believe. I'm not saying nobody would do it. I just think across the league, I know you're not seeing Tom Brady or Peyton Manning do it, but that's even different. He was an accessible guy when it comes right down to it.
Yeah, especially at the quarterback position where it's almost like you're holier than thou, when it comes to a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, Blake doesn't fit that mold whatsoever. Now, one could argue, well, maybe a quarterback has to have a little bit of that, especially a starting quarterback, because there is ego involved. And in order to be successful, science has proven that you need to have some kind of ego. So I'm not telling Blake Bortles to change who he is. I'm just bringing up the question where, do you think sometimes his personality affects his play? And I don't have the answer. I really don't.
Well, we've discussed it. I mean, some of the stuff he does with Barstool and all those things, it's fun. It's entertaining. It makes him just a regular guy. But I do think there's an element of that you don't find in an upper echelon quarterback that says, wait a minute, the CEO of the team in the locker room probably isn't doing that. And I think that's a fair criticism. I also, at the very next breath, would say it's one of the best parts about Blake Bortles is that he's just an everyday guy, and he doesn't care about that stuff. So he's an interesting character. I shouldn't say character. I mean, he's just an interesting player in this day and age. In that position, he's pretty unique in that sense. So we'll see where it goes for Blake Bortles. We have Stay in Your Lane coming up on the way. We had Jack's Dan wanted to get thoughts on one of the golf things that happened this week at the match play. Now, Tiger beat Rory, and then Tiger lost to a phenomenal performance in the afternoon, which is very unusual. Once again, shows Tiger's human. He's 40-something. He's not the Tiger of old. He would have never lost that, understood. And with that being said, everybody's like, well, Tiger missed a 5-foot putt. Don't give anybody else any credit. Well, the other dude made like a 30-footer, then a 13-footer. The guy made unbelievable shots against Tiger. So you got to tip your cap for that. But what he was asking about is, did you see the Matt Kuchar and Sergio Garcia thing?
I did not.
All right, so it's match play. And in match play, you go out and play in a regular tournament, nothing's good, right? Nothing's a gimme. If it's a 2-foot tap in, you tap it in. Well, in match play, it can be good. You can say, all right, that's good. You don't have to hit it, and it's in. And that's what usually happens within like a 3-foot circle of the hole. Mm-hmm. If it's a short putt, usually in match play, guys will let that go. Maybe 2 feet. Depends where the cutoff is. Well, Sergio putted against Matt Kuchar, and he missed. So he had an inch or a couple inches left. Well, he kind of hit it back and it missed. And so he lost the hole. Well, Matt Kuchar told the official in the group that he wanted to give him that putt. But Garcia didn't have the time. I mean, Kuchar didn't have the time. It all happened so fast.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the time to say it. And the official's like, well, you can't give it to him. I mean, he didn't give it to him. He went up and hit it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jack Stanton was asked my opinion on it. I think it stunk for Sergio Garcia, but it was all on Garcia. I don't think
rules
it was
is
on
rules, man.
I just think he acted too quickly. And now Kuchar, here we go. Kuchar and Sergio Garcia have both been involved in stuff the last year, but this to me had nothing on Kuchar. I mean, this was on Sergio Garcia. He played too quickly in that moment, got frustrated, and really, be honest with you, it was a putt coming back he would make in his sleep, and somehow he missed it. But I think it's all on Garcia. I think Garcia is going to slow everything down and just either give him an extra 3 seconds to say it's good. I think what Jack Stanton is asking about, should he be able to give him the putt after? Mm-hmm. And I really don't think he should be able to. I mean, I think it kind of stinks. He wanted to. I get his intentions, but once it's over, it's like any play, right? A play in sports, once it's done, it's done. You can't go back. If you want to review a play in football, you can't go back to review it. Mm-hmm. Once that next snap takes off. That's why everybody hurries to the line of scrimmage now, because of those same situations. So I think it played out probably the way it should have played out. Unfortunate for Garcia in the moment, and really unfortunate too, because Kuchar gets wrapped into it, and then you start questioning, well, maybe he didn't ask it quick enough. And I really don't believe anything was on Kuchar in this situation, the way I watched it unravel. All right, stay in your lane.
Cruise control. The Wall Street Journal ran a story this past weekend about how the March Madness rugs found in team locker rooms are a hot commodity for souvenir collectors. Apparently, teams have been stealing the rugs for years and then end up putting them in their own locker room in college. I used to do the same thing with body lotions and shampoos and towels and whatnot when I stayed at the Four Seasons in New Orleans. Shout out to the Four Seasons in New Orleans. Well, the NCAA has put a stop to teams trying to steal the rugs, even going as far as having security check players' bags before they leave the locker room. Enter Iowa guard Jordan Bohannon, who has posted a Snapchat of the rug set up inside of his apartment. Obviously, this got the NCAA's attention of wanting their rug back. So, the NCAA reached out to Iowa University, and this prompted Josh Bohannon to respond by saying, and I'm going to quote his tweet here, "Give us the ability to make money off our name, and we'll give your rug back. You have 24 hours. Go." An ultimatum about giving a rug back.
Come on. And they make billions of dollars.
I'll tell you what, Brent, they make a special breed of athlete at the University of Iowa. I mean, blue collar, not going to back down to anybody. I hope the Jacksonville Jaguars are looking at this, because Iowa players, man, might want some of that grit, some of that toughness on your team. Now, granted, Bohannon did issue an apology, whatnot. I'm sure he kind of was forced to do that. But interesting story in the state of Iowa right now.
What you said about hotels, which people do, by the way, and I might do it.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Or have done it. I'm not saying I make a practice of it, but I've done it. Is there other, like, we do this in media events. Like I think somebody was given like a CBS Sports banner away. I was like, okay, I'll take it. And now it's in my freaking house somewhere, and I don't know why I have it. Yeah. You know, it's like, you always have these ideas like, oh, that's going to look good in the man cave.
That's going to look good in the
well,
exactly.
What man cave?
Yeah.
So whenever you get around to doing that. Yeah. But, so, I mean, there are things. I remember even when we were playing baseball. I mean, you go, when we made the postseason and made to the World Series, you wanted the signage. And I'm one of those guys, too. Like, I want to commemorate it.
I'm the same way.
If you can commemorate it, commemorate it. So I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they should do?
I just don't think it's that big a deal.
They should give each school one.
I know.
That participates.
Or just, I don't know, each player.
Or each player, yeah.
And I should explain this. So, like, the rugs that I'm talking about, it's literally the rugs that go underneath each locker. So, like, a player can put their feet on them when they're putting their basketball shoes on and changing. Each locker gets, its own rug, so you can put your feet on it. So, I feel like they're pretty common. I get there might be collector's items, but I feel like Jordan Bohannon made some good points, man. I'm all for it.
I agree.
Now, I mean, calling the NCAA out, probably not the smartest idea. It's like calling the mafia out. I feel like you don't want to do that, but props to him. So that's my cruise control for the day.
Iowa, living high in Jacksonville right now.
Living high in Jacksonville. Pump your brakes. I hope Kuz is back there. Yep, Kuz is back there. So, Brent, if you remember a couple weeks ago, me and Kuz kind of did our chops and tried out for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp announcing team, basically. I mean, it was an individual segment, but I feel like me and Kuz could tag team it and be a good duo. Well, let's go to Montana quick.
Okay, duo.
Let's go to Montana quick and see how they're doing things in their baseball park.
Pitch swung over the second baseman's head out to the field. Canas is running home, and Montana walks off. First baseman Cammy Sellers able with the clutch line drive over the second baseman to hand Idaho State Bengals their first loss in Big Sky Conference play.
Hey, bro, are you at a funeral or a baseball game? Get a little motivation. Get a little pep in that step. Montana just walked off. Where's the excitement? Where's the enthusiasm? I got more enthusiasm talking crap about you than you did the whole game. Step your game up before me and Kuz come into Montana and take that job. You're fired. I'm firing everybody this week, Brett. He's fired too.
Yeah, you're firing everybody. And by the way, I mean, gosh, I've been in these guys' situation before. It's not easy. He's trying to make it. He might not be.
Walk-off. Come on, Brent. I don't care. Listen, it's walk-off home.
He's like some freshman in the broadcasting department at Montana, and he has no clue what to do because he's never done it. And it happens. You want me to go get my tape?
Yeah, I kind of do, actually. Yes, I do, as a matter of fact.
we could do that. I haven't given, not the 13-year-old tape either I'm talking about, or 12-year-old tape. I'm talking about the one in college.
I'd love to see that.
But, yeah, he wasn't good.
Wasn't good, man.
You remember it's the boom goes the dynamite.
Of course. Right? That's what really set the precedent for bad announcing and whatnot. I mean, that thing went viral for sure.
But that's what's crazy about it right now is I think the Toledo news station did something recently. Remember, did you see it?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, yeah, check it out. It's like, it went viral. It's some goofy thing that they did, too.
Now, they used all the hip, young terms.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I did see that.
They were doing that for exactly what happened.
Right, right. They were going viral. They knew what was going to happen.
Absolutely. They sold their soul.
But are you going viral for the right reasons there, people? Because people were making fun of them nonstop.
Well, no, this kid's not trying to go viral. You almost feel bad for the kid. Now everybody's going to I've seen it on social media. They've been ripping them already. Like, we're awful announcing or something, but that's like the worst thing. It's like, okay, well, very good. Hey, I can guarantee you this. That kid ain't going in the business.
Well, I understand.
Not because he's not very good
because
right
of all the hate.
Because of all the hate. I mean, the guy's 3 months into his career.
More jobs for me and
college.
Kuz. More jobs for me and Kuz. I like it, man. Open up that market a little bit.
Oh, we got Mick Jagger news and postponement, which, by the way, we have to check on that. What are we doing with our bracket first place prize?
I think we were just going to... No, I don't know.
You're just going
to give him anyway.
Well, no, listen, somebody
Everyone's
already
going for
asked,
second place.
Right, no, I don't. No, I think... I don't know. I mean, it's just postponed, so I guess we could still give tickets for when they do come.
You get to come to the studio and watch Austin Lane play the baritone sax.
Yeah, now we're talking. Can't put a price on that, everybody.
Play Rolling Stones covers on the baritone.
Hey, one of the first songs I ever learned for Pep Band was Painted Black, so I got you guys there.
Wow,
I got it.
Apparently, the health concern, because that was a big reason that this was postponed, heart surgery.
Wow.
Apparently. Yeah, I just
really?
got
Now, in the initial press release about it, he had a quote, obviously, that he was disappointed, but in there it said he's expected to make a full recovery, so...
He should be all right.
He's 75 years old, man. 75 years old.
It's insane.
Well, and going, I mean, listen, not that 75 years old means you can't do anything, but 75 years old and putting on concerts and having heart surgery.
Have you seen Keith Richards?
Yeah.
Woo. I love it, man. I mean, hey, like the guy's he's a prototypical rock star.
Didn't Keith Richards kind of look like that when he was like 42?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's almost like it's like Benjamin Button, man. He's getting younger. All that drinking and all that partying, I guess, pays dividends in the long run. Who knows? Whatever.
Well, there you go. So we haven't decided though. I forgot to ask Nick that today.
Yeah, I think that's a Nick decision.
That is it. We got to do something.
Second place is the new first place. That is what it is.
Well,
if you're not first, you're second, which is a better place at this point because you're getting more.
Well, first place still had a what was it?
Smoker.
Smoker.
Yeah.
Smoker, an ESPN prize pack, and then Rolling Stone station.
You're getting a pen and a nice polo shirt.
A pen and
Hopefully you're
a
extra
bottle
large.
opener.
Wait. Those nice little footballs. Come on.
Oh, yeah, and the footballs, too, as well.
Oh, yeah,
Actually,
you got one right there.
I'm messing around with it. And look what I did today. I have one of these lanyards that I stole from. And I put it on.
690 lanyards.
Did you see my?
Like, I've never done this with my keys.
Brent, just show it to the camera.
I've never done this with my keys. Like, are you a keychain kind of guy?
I've been getting yelled at,
all
actually.
the time.
I was told after a certain age you got to bail on the lanyard.
Really?
And I've been told I'm past that. So I don't know.
So there's like a window where it's not cool.
Apparently, like
Says
I was out at the bars and they're like, "Bro, you still got a lanyard in your back pocket?" And I was like, "I mean, my keys are on it. What do you want?" They're like, "Oh, dude, no."
Really? There's like a lanyard police.
No,
I guess.
I don't think so.
Is lanyard police out there in cool country?
I mean, I'm pretty cool, Brent. I still use a lanyard, so
you do have one.
Yeah, yeah. Where's it?
I still have my Flagler College one. It's like 6 years old.
Yeah,
at this
you
point.
got it. Which one? What does it say?
It says Combat Night. That's the promotion that I fought
All right,
for.
well, we're about to throw that one away because it looks disgusting, first of all.
Wow.
Hating on Combat Night all of a sudden.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying I don't know where that thing's been.
Hope they get another fight with them. But,
I will say Combat Night was a blast.
Thank you very much, Coos.
Good recovery, Coos.
I got you.
Nice bounce back there. But we got a fresh one here. So,
okay, well then, Holden, give me an ESPN 690 one.
We were out at Intuition Ale and all these places, and they had them right there. You just steal one from the table.
Oh, yeah, just take it off.
You can't steal from your own supply. I saw that.
Yeah, you can.
Have you ever seen Scarface, Brent? No, you can't. see how that panned out for him? Okay, then.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think Nick's running stuff like that.
Well, it's the same principles at the end of the day.
Hey, just to recap the show, or reset the show if you missed it earlier on, not the Blake Bortles interview that you just heard that, but the NCAA tournament and Final Four. What we talked about earlier, and here's the fun thing about our show, you can go check it out. The early parts of it, if you missed it, on the podcast, Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. Check it out on Facebook, the video portion with the audio, of course, YouTube, Twitch, and on Twitter. So you can continuously go back and see it if you missed a segment of the show. Easy to find. But we were talking about how the NCAA tournament's the best postseason tournament there is. And I think some people say, hey, listen, hockey's unbelievable postseason. Yeah, I think playoff hockey's great. People say the NFL. You have 6 teams in, and of the 12 teams, it's usually, the parity usually exists. My point on the NCAA tournament, one, it gives us something different every year. But I'm talking this year alone, I don't remember a time where I could have penciled any of the 16 teams to win the national title, and I really feel like you could have done that this year. Oregon maybe is an exception. They were a 12 seed, but don't forget, Oregon hadn't lost a game in like 3 weeks. They had been playing really good basketball. So if you want to eliminate them and maybe one other team, if you don't think they could have won it all, still 14, 13 teams in a postseason tournament to win the national title. You won't find that in any other place, I don't think. You won't find it if we get to an 8-team playoff in college football. Maybe 8 teams can win it, but I don't usually think the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13 kind of teams that might have got in are good enough to win a national title in football. So it really it speaks to just how great this tourney is, and we should have an interesting Final Four because I don't really think there's a favorite in this group now. I mean, who would you put the favorite at? Auburn versus Virginia and Michigan State against Texas Tech. I think from heritage, you'd put Michigan State because you know Tom Izzo. You know they've done it before. They've been here before. But I don't know from a playing standpoint who is even a favorite for me. I don't know who I'd pick out of the bunch.
Honestly, I think it's a coin flip. I mean, I look at every one of these teams. Like, one could argue, well, Auburn's been catching fire lately. They've beaten probably some of the best
teams. Might be the hottest team
in the tournament. But they also had a close call in the first round of the game. I think it was New Mexico State, or I forgot who the team was, but it was literally the first round of the tournament. They almost went out. Yeah,
they lost by 1.
Yeah. So, I mean, Auburn. But listen, to me, I guess Virginia would be the team that I would bank on just because they play offense. They can play defense as well. I think they have the players to do that. But listen, I was the guy saying that Dukes can go all the way, and obviously that got me. So it's an open field. I think it's great for the tournament. Obviously, brackets are a big thing of why people watch the tournament in the first place. I feel like there's not a lot of brackets out there that are still in the game per se. So from that perspective, maybe people won't be tuning in quite as much because there's some teams that nobody really expected to play. But at the same time, you got two teams that it's the first time being in the Final Four, so you have to like that as well.
I don't think you'll see a big ratings drop. I really don't. I mean, you might get, you're going to see a notch, but it's not going to be like, oh my goodness, it dropped. People watch because they watch. It's big time basketball. It's championship basketball. It's the Final Four. People want to watch it, no doubt. You mentioned Zion Williamson and Duke. Remember when the question before the tournament was Duke or the field? That was an easy answer right from the get-go. I think you could tell, to me, and we brought this up last week, when UCF almost beat them. And I still believe UCF played without their A-plus game. They played a very good game, but they did not play what could have been their best game. And they still should have, almost, would have, could have beaten Duke. It hit me right then Duke wasn't winning the national title. And I didn't necessarily think they might go out yesterday, but I just didn't think they were going to win it all. And, well, that proved to be the case.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing we should probably mention, too, is when they played Virginia Tech, how fun it was watching Buzz Williams coach. I think he's one of the unsung heroes of college basketball in terms of coaching and whatnot.
Interview?
His halftime interview was great. His post game, like I guess speech in the locker room where they're praying and everything like that. He's praying for the seniors to go out and do successful things in the world, whether it's the NBA or just doing other jobs and whatnot. So props to Buzz Williams, man. And I'm sure there's a lot of good coaches. Don't get me wrong. I'm just naming one, but I think Buzz Williams should get some kind of recognition for the way he handled that loss and for the way he cared about his players there.
And listen, and that's the thing. Like, people are giving Bruce Pearl a hard time because of what the transgressions of the past, crying at halftime. I think that stuff's genuine, man. I think they really want to do well for the kids. I just think in the offseason, outside of this tournament, the big thing overall college basketball is, let's make sure I get my wins and take care of my pocketbook and do things. I want to be the big guy on campus, and I'm the most important person here. I think that also exists in college basketball. It's a kind of a weird collision because I do think they want to help young men be better men. I think they want to help good, talented basketball players get to the NBA. But it is a strange collision at times in college basketball, and one that doesn't, even when you see the authentic moments, you almost don't believe that they are authentic and genuine.
And getting back to the point, too, of where this is probably the best, postseason in sports. I mean, hockey is great as well. Last year was was a great example for the fact that you have the Las Vegas Knights were the first time in the NHL expansion team really just pulling off a big-time miracle, going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and you had the Washington Capitals with Alex Ovechkin, who is he finally going to get his first Stanley Cup, a guy that has been at the top of his game for so long. So that had the storyline this past season. But it seems like every single year in the NCAA tournament, in terms of basketball, there's always storylines. Whether it's Texas Tech, whether it's Auburn, it doesn't matter the teams, doesn't matter the style that they play, there's always going to be storylines. Loyola last year,
yeah, it was unbelievable.
Sister Jean, that was
stole the tournament,
stole the whole tournament. So
didn't win,
and didn't win. But that's the greatness of college basketball in the postseason, is the fact that you always are going to have these storylines, no matter who's in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we learned a couple of things today. One of them meaning you guys really want a blue check mark.
I already have one, so I'm good. Goose doesn't have one.
I don't have one.
But the fact you loved having it. When did you get it again?
I got it my rookie year after I submitted.
Oh, it went that quick.
Yeah, it didn't go quick because I had to submit, like I said, a 10-page essay of why I should qualify for a blue check mark.
Well, at the time, you probably had like 500 followers.
Close to that. Yeah.
I mean, it was early on, right?
It was early on, yeah, back in 2010.
I believe I wrote that essay as well and got denied.
Well, Cruz, one question for you. If you ever get accepted, maybe for your birthday, I'll write a letter and maybe, I'll hook you up or something like that. If you ever do get the check mark, what's the first thing that you do?
There's an rap song about getting a blue check mark, so I'll probably take a clip of that and tweet it out.
Okay, well, then I'm not going to do you any favors. Good luck with that.
I just didn't think the check mark was that big of a thing.
Oh, Brent. Brent, you're so naive.
It's important.
So naive, Brent.
No one's going to believe you as an account tweeting about anything if you don't have the check mark.
The only thing that the blue check mark helps me out is if I tweet something at an athlete.
They'll pay attention.
Or trying to find Jake Ryan or someone like that, just to loop him in on the conversation where he could find the interview we had. Well, it will be better. Then there won't be 14 Jake Ryans, and it might have a check mark. Now, I know he had 47 in his thing, but you get my point. That's the only value I see in the check mark.
Oh, no, Brent. Not at all.
I didn't know this was such a thing.
It means you're a trusted source.
You're a trusted source. It basically means that you're legit, that you're a badass at the end of the day.
Yeah. I guess I kind of knew all that about myself.
He doesn't need a check mark to tell him that, to reiterate the point. All right,
but
fair
thank
enough.
you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
verifying.
You're welcome.
Twitter. You know what else we learned today?
What's
is
that?
Phil Mickelson has really impacted a lot of people.
No, hey, and by the way, don't ever say
Lefties.
that I was lying. I have the email right here. Today, in the email for the show, most influential athletes on the next generation. Curry, LeBron, Mickelson, question mark. That was
a
it.
question mark.
Curry,
Not a check mark.
LeBron, Mickelson, question mark. No, sir.
Coach
Sorry.
Cal gets a lifetime guarantee. All we get is another day tomorrow. That's about as simple as that.
Can't wait.
Hey, it was a fun Monday. Make sure you check out the podcast, Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. As always, we'll see you on TV, Fox 30 and CBS 47. For Coos, Stuart Weber, who dropped by, Austin Lane, I'm Brent Martineau. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody.
Oye, amigo, it is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.